NUFC Early Night News with Gary DeJordy Yum Yum, Andrew Boki, Christina Cage, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
Hey, hey! Doing very nicely. Way out.
Missing. There we go. We're all back on the screen. I hope, like I say, anybody out there, I'm just going to mention it again. Please, if you can do 3 things for us, it'll be very kind. Smash the bell, hit the like, and obviously subscribe if you haven't already. Where have you been under that rock? Like I say, we are talking all things NUFC. And there's a lot of news broke tonight. And as you can see by the thumbnail, the lads in the later show will be coming right at you with all of the up-to-date news. I mean, we'll talk about 1 or 2 points, but there's nothing. I mean, like I say, there's nothing better for me than to start a show with a little bit of a talk, a discussion, just to see where. And again, I don't want to go back to where we were last night, but the one thing that I noticed from a lot of the pointers, Boki did bring some things to the table, and afterwards when I was sat listening to the boys afterwards, it was just a case of where has it gone, what has happened. So luckily for me, somebody has actually done the actual graft for me. All I had to do was dig a little bit deeper to find the narrative. So that literally is where we're going to be with tonight's show. And like I say, listen, we know there's going to be a lot of numbers and stuff coming your way, so I don't want you to be bored too much. But anyway, let's get on with it.
I'll stop you.
Exactly. So anyway, let's do me ditty. Good evening and welcome back to NUFC Talk, the only show where we can go from we're absolutely massive to sell the lot in the space of one misplaced pass. Newcastle United, the club that has a calculating points per game like we're in NASA control, while simultaneously pretending fixture congestion isn't a thing. Europe, brilliant for the passport stamps, slightly less brilliant for our hamstrings. Tonight, we're asking the big question. Are we tired or are we just Newcastle? Now it's reworked from Europe Impact segment into something much more panel and audience driven. It's structured, it's interactive, built for engagement rather than just monologue. So here we go. You guys were saying yesterday about, Boki was putting a point to the two of you guys and saying, what has Eddie Howe done to the boys? And the one thing that really came to mind yesterday thinking, I was trying to piece together where Newcastle have gone wrong, if you like. So, if you like, the one thing I noticed was the stat. In our non-European season, we're averaging around about 1.7 to 1.8 points per game. I've based it on where we are now. So after 26 matches, so I've gone through the previous 4 years, 4 and a bit years, if you like. So over the last 5 seasons, under Eddie Howe's tenure, because you can't judge it on the full season yet. So I've banged exactly where we are on the 26 matches in Europe and out of Europe. In our European season, we're around 1.4. So we've dropped off that metric. That's roughly 8 to 10 points difference. So I'm asking the panel, is Europe hurting our league campaign? So the one thing...
I think the answer to that is inevitably.
Yeah. I mean, it is, like I say, it's an open-ended question because you've got to ask yourself, well, isn't it the same for everybody else? Well, you're absolutely right. And I've also done the metrics on them as well. And every single team, barring a select couple, and I have to say a select couple because you have to look at the squad itself, right? So in the past, what you've seen is the likes of Pep Guardiola will have thrown a team out there, and in our domestic cups, that probably isn't hitting the high notes. And like I said, it happens. We used to do it all the time, didn't we? Back in the day, we always used to look at the domestic cup until it gets into the quarters as just let's go out there and try and just get a result by hook or by crook, throw the kids on. That seems to have turned.
I think that's a fallacy. I don't think we did used to do that. We
Not us, as in, I'm talking the royal way, as in teams used to throw, especially the elite side of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your Liverpools and your likes. It's a bit different now with squad sizes being a lot larger. So
I would like to examine those stats and say, yes, undoubtedly you might have shoved one or two non-first teamers in, but you know, all the way back in the day, it was the FA Cup was a big thing.
Absolutely, and like I said, you know, I was listening to yourselves and Boki with Kev, who I thought did excellent last night on his opening chat show, if you like, as a host. His debut. But the one thing that I look at is, like you say, we all grew up with the FA Cup. That was one of them things, and we all used to watch the final. Whoever played in it, it didn't matter who played. It was one of those moments because it was televised. And back in the day, it was one of very few that was televised. So,
yeah, but also remember, back in the day, only the champions were in Europe.
Yes.
And only the FA Cup winners were in the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yes.
And only the second and third teams were in the UEFA.
UEFA. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
So there was only 3 clubs involved in Europe.
Yeah. So again, there wasn't that so many. What I'm trying to get at, there wasn't so many yards to run, as in games to get involved in. So when you look at it, what you've got now is the top 5 potentially is always in Champions League, and then obviously, as you rightly said in the comms, this year.
Ooh, there's a thing.
Go on.
So we're now we are not now a top an elite 6. It's now down to 5. I take it you're knocking Tottenham out of that.
No, I mean only 6 will get into Europe in the Champions League. Yeah, only the 5 will get in there. 6, and like I say, depends on whoever wins the finals and things like that. As you rightly said before, it could be down to 9th position.
Could be down to 9th this season. Yeah,
we'll get into in a European position. So what I'm trying to say is, the days gone by, we didn't play as many games as we are now, right?
Nowhere near.
And when you got into the later 90s, early millenniums, you saw a lot of teams, especially the bigger teams, pushing out a weaker squad to try and cover the amount of games that they were going. The other thing is now, a lot of the internationals that we see now, there wasn't many Newcastle players at international level also back in the day.
Yeah.
And it always seems to be under this umbrella. It's something that we forget. There's a lot more internationals at the Newcastle camp these days than there was back in the day. So that is more travelling, more games where everybody else is having a rest. We aren't. So,
and it was also the case then, by the way, pre-Premiership era, certainly, that basically it was only the 4 home counties, the 4 home countries players who were playing in the first division. Yeah. You know, there weren't a lot of Germans or Italians, or certainly no Africans or Asians or whatever. You know, basically, if you didn't play for England, Scotland, Ireland, or Wales, the international break didn't have any effect at all on any of the clubs.
But lads, just to pull this back on the point Gary was making there in regards to this season in Champions League, is it affecting? I think we could have said that the first time we got Champions League, we did well. Well, Eddie did brilliantly to get with Champions League that season, and we didn't have the squad that season to deal with it. We didn't have enough players. We didn't have good enough players to deal with it. However, this season, he spent £250 million in the summer to build up the squad to compete in 4 different cup competitions. 3 different cup competitions in the league. So I think the argument being made is, yes, the first season I can give leeway in regards to there was, he didn't have the squad, but this season, this squad is, as you guys said, it's the best we've ever had. So we can't blame the fact that we're playing too many games because we've got a squad now to do that. The problem is,
I disagree with you, Balky. I disagree with you, Balky. I totally disagree with you, mate.
You guys said that.
I absolutely did. But what I'm saying is, I didn't say we had depth of squad. I said it's the best squad we've had. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the numbers that we still have, it's nowhere near the big teams, the Manchester Cities, the Arsenals. There's nowhere near the Liverpools or anything like that. So when you're comparing, yes, it's the best squad we've ever seen, but when you're asking them to do the same footprint as the bigger squad, it will impact Newcastle a lot more than it will impact Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. And I've got the facts in front of me.
But we can double up in every position. Every position we have a backup player for. So
But are you not losing?
We didn't have that in the first league, the first round of Champions League, and I freely admit up to that. And yes, that season you could make an argument.
We just didn't have the quality.
But that's exactly the point. Now we do have the quality in those backup players, or we should have for the money we've spent on them.
Who's your backup left back?
I don't think that's a fair point, mate. To be fair, when you should have because you spent money on them, that doesn't always
hang on.
give you
What's
grounding.
football about? You spend money on players to get better players. We spend 40.
But everybody's spending money on players.
Oh my God!
Well, exactly. But we spend
going down the same avenue.
Well, we're
Round
not.
two.
We're not.
We are.
He's asked the question, and I'm saying that in the first season in Champions League, I freely admit up to the fact we did not have a squad to be able to compete on 4 different cup competitions. This season, where the money was spent, understanding that we had Champions League football, and we still haven't got the squad that's good enough to do it. So what was the point in spending all that money?
So you don't believe in injuries then?
That's not the point that we're making.
Well, of course, it's the point that we're making. Because you've just said, hold on, you've just said we've doubled up in every position. So why haven't we got another right back?
Well, we have.
Why haven't we got another left back?
We've got 2 left. We've got 2 right backs. We've got 2 left backs.
Who?
You've got Trips and Tino at right back.
Well, he's injured.
You've got Kraft and you've got
Injured.
Hall at left back.
He's playing every game.
Left back.
Injuries are part of football.
Because of the amount of games that you're getting.
You can't say that the squad isn't good enough because we're getting injuries. That makes no sense whatsoever. Every squad's got injuries.
It makes perfect sense.
It makes absolutely perfect sense. And listen, a snippet of what you just said. And Travoy, hold on. No, Balky, 2 seconds. Travoy has hit the nail on the head. We've spent 250 million and we've overspent on 3 players, I think. That is my surmise, right? Where we probably could have gone out there and made a better inroad to the depth of squad. But again, I'm asking the quality. Would we have the quality there? Well, it's a gamble that Eddie chose to make. 11th hour gamble. It hasn't paid off. And
yet.
And what I'm saying is, before we had the squad, we're on exactly the same points after 26 games in Europe, barring 1 point, I think it is. So what I'm trying to say
is this then, Gary? Whose fault is the fact that
oh my God.
Well,
so success is the fault, Bokeh. This is what I'm trying to say to you.
Success is the fault this season.
Yes.
No, that makes no sense.
It's not just this.
We spent 200.
How many players did we lose? How many? Okay, we have. How many players did we lose? How many players did we say Toronto?
Hang on. You guys sat here and told me this transfer window blew your frock up.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting here saying the players that were bought aren't good enough. This is ridiculous.
What? Have I just said that? Has anybody in this panel said? I haven't said that at all. What I'm saying is, what's
the issue then? What do you mean? The squad we've got 6.
Oh my God!
We've got 6 central midfielders. We've got 4 wingers. We've got 8 defenders. We had 9 defenders, but we decided to sell 1. We have 3 strikers, and we've got 2 goalkeepers. That is doubling up.
We've got 6
position.
goalkeepers, actually.
Well, we've got 6 or 7 goalkeepers because that's always the case. But that you as I say, you can go into that first season saying the depth of squad wasn't good enough. This season, we're doubling up in every position. How can you come out and say
there is no point in
squad?
Yeah, okay, that's what I said. You're focused on, obviously, that failure, okay? So there ain't no point in arguing the failure because it's failure in your eyes and that's it. All I'm trying to say is success brings problems. It doesn't make it smooth, right? And that's what I said. Every team that I have looked at that is in Europe or have been in European competitions, apart from the elite ones that have had money to spend before the gates got closed, are the only ones that are successful year after year, go high in competitions domestically, league, and Europe because of depth of squad. Nothing else. They have injuries, but they've got a decent replacement. No. It's no good you saying Gary to me because this is just
coming
just
back
the same
on
thing.
that. Why don't we use the youth then? You're talking about depth of squad
Because they may not be the right.
We've had young players on the bench. How can we tell? Well, don't just say, "Oh my God!" How can you tell those players aren't
because
good
the
enough?
academy has
Because they
literally
never
just
get
been
a
put
chance.
together.
They never get a chance.
No, exactly. But he gets a chance to see them on a Friday night. You can't tell me that there's players on there. Now, again, I watch a lot of this youth football. It ain't brilliant. That's why the bottom of the Premier League too, mate. If they were good footballers, they would certainly be not going to the likes of Falkirk or Ayr or Bradford City. These would be going somewhere else. And that's what I'm saying. You can't just put a blanket over it and say, it's Eddie Howe. It's more than one person. It's a number of things. Success sometimes breeds failure because you're pushing players. And again, it's that repetition. I had a squad of 13 players that I could only pay £10 to, right? Because I hadn't got a budget. I had teams when I was in the Midland Com that were paying £100+ per player. And that's why they were going on and winning cup, league after league. I had to scrape a team together. And that's why I went down to the kids. But I was never going to compete. I could stay in the league, but I was never going to compete for the top four, ever. Not on a budget of 10 million. So budget, if you think about it, work it out from the 5 years that he's been here. We've spent £750 million in that period, but we've gone through 4 windows without purchasing a single body. We've got rid of so many players that weren't good enough, right? So then you're trying to fill the void of the people that you've lost. So you're still narrow, even though you've spent that money. So you're not looking at it. 2 players in every position isn't good enough to play in every competition going. It just isn't. So what you have to do, you have to try and work the magic. Now, the only thing I can honestly say about Eddie Howe that doesn't work for me is he don't use the loan market well enough. And if I was to be hyper cynical, I would say the likes of Douglas Luiz, who's just gone back to Aston Villa, looks like the kid's never left. Really good number 6. Yeah, it may not have been a position that we potentially needed. But now all of a sudden, with Bruno missing, potentially, for how long, we don't know. Miley still isn't recovering from this supposedly dead leg. This 6 midfield becomes 4. And out of those 4, hold on, Boki, out of those 4, how many can you honestly say or have been good this season?
So how many midfielders do you want to have, Gary, at the club? How many midfielders do you want to have? How many wingers? Well, no, you're making the point that the squad's not big enough. You tell me, what position should we have more players in?
What I'm saying is, you're going to have a position within a league where there's going to be a drop off because you're losing players.
So what?
That's the way it is.
But what position?
What's through all this?
We're not win because you aren't answering. What position should we have more players in? So should we have 6, 7 midfielders? Should we have 8? Should we have 9? Should we have 5 wingers, 6, 7? Should we have 8 strikers? How many players do we need in each position?
So to answer that question, you've got to look at the quality of the second players, as you say. So is Jacob Murphy going to walk into a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Manchester City, an Arsenal? Is Kieran Trippier at his current age going to walk into any of those teams? Emil Kraft is 100% not a left back. So our backup left back would have to be considered Dan Burn. And at left back, except for one game this season, Dan Burn hasn't really performed as well at left back, even though he has shown occasionally that he's got a fantastic cross, he does have to catch a bus to get back to the defensive position after he's done that cross. So it's all very well having two players in each position, but you need to have quality in each position. And I'm not sure at the moment, although I don't really want to get in the middle of whatever's going on here, I don't think we've got the quality of two players who you would say, okay, these are Champions League level players in every position on the pitch, personally.
So let's just because we've got to talk again. I don't want to bore people with numbers, but this is where we've got to be. So in season 21-22, after 26 games, and again Eddie wasn't involved in the first bit, we was on 28 points after 26 games. In 22-23, no Europe, we were on 47 points after 26 games. 23-24 with Champions League, 37 points. That's a 10-point drop off. 24-25, no Europe again, 44 points. 25-26, 36 points, European football assumed. So again, if you convert that all into numbers, which is very boring, I'm not going to go through it, you can see yourself the impact, European competition, and that's success, right? It doesn't matter how much flannel you throw over it and who to blame, whether it's him or her or the bloke down the stairs who's brushing the toilets out. Doesn't matter. All I'm saying to you is when you get success so quick at a club that's growing at not as quick as in, the squad's growing really well, but not as quick as it would do if we had an open checkbook, the same as the Manchester City's had and the Chelsea's had and Man United have always had and the Arsenals have had. If we had that opportunity to go out and spend without any issues, we wouldn't have the drop-off as we see now. Because you, as Tina's just said, you're still playing a lad who come up from Norwich, and he's still vying for a place at right wing. Now, if you think that is where a Champions League team would be across Europe, I beg to differ. I totally beg to differ. So
I beg to differ with you, Gary, because why?
Well, you can.
Why have we went with 78% Premier League players? You're quite right. There's some of the players were brought in aren't good enough, and some of the players we've still got aren't good enough. We could have replaced a hell of a lot of them if we'd been scouting players from other leagues and getting them a lot cheaper than we're paying for Premier League proven players. So we can all
hold on that one, on the scouting then. On the scouting, you've got to finish the point though. You can come back to your point, Bo.
Let us finish the point. Fair enough.
Yeah,
you're the host.
No. Listen, what I'm saying is you can't go all the way rambling on without coming to the point. You've just said scouting, right? Mitchell didn't want to do his job.
None of you guys are answering questions.
I'm answering the question. I've just said to you, when you think about it, you said we haven't been scouting. Mitchell was told by Piff that he wasn't allowed to have the money to buy the players. Is that Eddie Howe's fault? It's gone quiet.
Sorry, what Eddie Howe? Eddie Howe stormed up the stairs and took over transfers.
That's rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. That is absolute.
Hang on,
it's absolute rubbish.
Said in the summer that
I haven't said that at all. I haven't said that at all, and I will never say that because I have no facts to say that. He was never going to be up in front of Piff saying it's him or me. That is tosh. I would never accept that as true facts. Ever, unless I saw the two of them in a book and asked them out the question.
You're pulling me up now on seeing that. You never pulled these. Well, we're up in the summer for seeing that. You never said.
You said
no. We've sat on this show together.
Listen, people are.
You never pull win up saying that's absolute tosh.
No, hold on. You just said you guys, so I'm included in you guys. Thank you.
No, I'm talking about. Well, no, you're the host. We know that you're neutral, or you're meant to be. But in regards to this, you've never said when Wynne said that it was Mitchell Eddie stormed up the stairs and took over. How come now when I see it, it's tosh?
Right, but wait a minute.
Because there's no facts behind it. There's nothing out there that gives me anything to prove that that's fact. That's what I'm saying. It's tosh. It's just talk.
Relevant actually, because the fact is that Mitchell was told when he first took over. This is way before any storming up the stairs, which did or did not happen. I think it did. But it's before that. He was told he didn't have any money.
listen, let's just take it back. Manchester City consistently get 1.9 to 2.4 points per game after 26 games during Champions League seasons. Minimal drop-off. Reasons? Their squad depth neutralises fixture congestion. Simple. It's just, again, a squad of depth, good players, like for like coming in, don't really miss it. The only person that seemed to unbalance Manchester City is when they lost Rodri in the middle of the park, the guy who orchestrates the midfield. And it's very similar to when we lose the Brunos. When Bruno's not in the middle, again, I mentioned it before, Tonali, a great player, but ain't a leader. And when you haven't got a leader on the park, and I mean a leader who's going to pull his socks up and drive the team forward, that everybody picks me up on that, saying, "What do you mean he's not a leader? He's a great player." Yeah, he's a great player. I'm not saying he's not a bad player, but he's not a player who's going to push the team up the field. Bruno has his faults. I'm not saying Bruno is the world, the God and Almighty. In Liverpool, this is another one. Liverpool, in heavy European seasons, I'm going on 2021 injury crisis. 22-23, they rebuilt the season. Their points per game after 26 games dropped significantly compared to the title contender years. Squad fatigue and defensive injuries were measurable factors. And there you go. That's a European heavyweight, if you like, with Liverpool during those 2 seasons where they had total injury crisis, then had to go out and rebuild. Now, for me, we are still rebuilding and we've had injury crisis. So when you put the two of them together, I mean, all I'm trying to do is give an answer to what you were scripting out yesterday. And I don't want to come across as say, you're wrong. I'm just trying to measure it out where it's not just a finger-pointing system where you're to blame.
Can I ask a question? And how many players have the rest of those teams played in the Champions League this season compared to us? So Liverpool, everyone else in the Champions League, in the Premier League, how many players have they played in the Premier League? Sorry, in the Champions League compared to us?
Well,
so have they played? Have they played 22, 23, 24, 25 players?
They've probably got a 25-man squad. We haven't even got that in Europe.
Oh, no, but how many have they played in the Champions League? I'm sure Win can look.
I don't follow Liverpool, Arsenal, or Manchester City.
Well, no, do I? But I'm sure Win can look this up. How many players have they played? Because you're saying a 22-man squad isn't big enough. Have they played more players than 22 in the Champions League?
But what I'm saying is they probably haven't played more than 22 in the Champions League, but what they'll have is rotation then for the Premier League. And that's what I'm saying. You can't just look at one aspect of the argument and say that's where you're going to fixate on, because it's squad rotation through different competitions. So again, it's an open-ended question, and there is no answer to that. Because if they don't play the 25 man in Europe, they'll play those that have been rested in a domestic competition. So again, it's like I said, the biggest problem that Eddie Howe faces at the moment is numbers that are sitting on the physio's bench, numbers that are sitting inside, the subs bench that probably haven't hit the metrics, or they have hit the metrics, but they're not showing the end product yet. Now, Eddie Howe blames minutes on the training field.
When we're looking up the Champions League players that have played, then why don't we also look up how many players each of these teams have played this season? How many squad players that Liverpool, Chelsea, all those big teams have played this season? I don't think they've played many more players than us, to be honest.
No,
well, we built this squad knowing what we had this season, knowing what we were going into. As I say, the majority of people were happy with what we bought and what we had. I wasn't. I said you should be buying players for the first team, not to sit on the bench. And I'll give you the likes of Elanga and Wissa have been disappointing signings, but they're players that Eddie had scouted for a lot of years and wanted in. So, we've got to be honest about this when we're talking about it and say we built the squad up to what we wanted for Champions League football, what Eddie wanted for Champions League football, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it doesn't matter who you are, right? And like I say, Arsenal, 22-23, Europa, strong league output, okay? 23-24, Champions League return, slight dip in the autumn form during group stages before stabilising, early season points drop relative to previous year. So again, a team as strong as Arsenal in that season had a dip in form because of injuries that were sustained. And again, even Arteta was being called out by a lot of the Arsenal fans. Tottenham historically shown more fluctuation. In several Champions League seasons, the league points per game after 26 matches fell compared to their non-European years, particularly when the squad depth was thin. And again, we go back to, you look on paper from their squad yesterday, it wasn't a bad team. And they had 11 or 12 players missing from that squad. And I still looked at that squad yesterday and said, you know what? That ain't a bad squad to start off if you've got 12 players unavailable. I mean, you can go on to West Ham, you can go on to Aston Villa. I've got all the metrics in front of me. It shows exactly the same pattern. The pattern across mid-tier European entrants, not City, is fairly consistent. Points per game tend to decline by 0.2 to 0.4. Injury incidences rise because you're playing more games, you're running more meters, and then obviously then you start getting into that I'm hitting a wall at the 60-minute mark. And if you notice across a lot of our games, we are a totally different team in that second half. And if you looked at Aston Villa, who played last night, exactly the same. They played excellent in the first half, but they reached the 60-minute mark and they were dead on the feet. They were really lucky against Brighton to get that win. So defensive metrics degrade first. Goals conceded increase. I think you've seen that this season before attacking outputs falls. Unfortunately, I think we've had a combination of both. Both the defensive metrics have gone and our attacking metrics, even though we're getting top of the league on the crosses, we've just had nobody to finish the dinner. So post-European match league fixtures show reduced win percentage, particularly away from home. And again, look at all the teams in Europe played away this season and see how many points they've won. It ain't that different to what Newcastle have. And that's all I'm saying. Like I said, I don't want to go on and harp it. I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper and make a constructive discussion about where the failure is. I often think that sometimes, and again, I watched what Sean put on the chat earlier on, and it was fabulous by the Irish guy, because as I said the other day, it just reminds me of the Robson years. We've got far too many people with very short memories that just point the finger at the gaffer and say, you're on your bike. And who did we get in? Souness. And then all of a sudden, it's like bang. And then everybody keeps on talking about all these managers that want to come to Newcastle. Well, like I said, Unai Emery refused to come. He went to Aston Villa. Now, who thinks that we're going to get an elite manager come to Newcastle? Because I haven't got
an elite manager at the minute, Gary, and flip that the other way. You've had all these clubs who've lost the managers, Man United, Tottenham, that have sacked Chelsea over the last few years, have sacked the managers. How many of them have came in for Eddie Howe? How many of them have thought, he's the right man for this club? You look at you always look at the bookies because they never lose money.
Well, Man United.
He's never ever top of any way to be the next manager of a top elite club.
No, because they know him that he's not going anywhere.
But win. If a top elite club came in for him, there'd be discussions had. It's never happened. So I think people are scared about change, and I get that. But don't be scared. Change is sometimes good.
No, well, Ashworth is on record as saying at Man United that he wanted Eddie Howe.
Yeah, but they never came in for him.
Well, no, because you're not telling me that England, for example, say, he wasn't in the 10. You're not telling me that England didn't put the feelers out and say, if we came calling, would you be interested?
Has any club come in and said to him, said to the Newcastle United, we want you that manager?
But we don't know.
But we do, because it's never ever been reported that anybody's put in for him. Yes, there's been links to him.
It has. Man United came for him.
They didn't. Ashworth wanted him. Ashworth wanted him, but they never came in and tried to get him.
Did they try to get Pep Guardiola?
Who?
Manchester United, Tottenham, Chelsea. Did any of them go in for Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, they went in. Man United went in for him when City got him. And there was the battle between the two.
Since he's been at Manchester City, since he's had a new club, have the teams who have gotten rid of their managers and replaced them, including Chelsea and Tottenham and Manchester United, have they went in for Pep Guardiola?
Well, no, because he would
So
never.
is Pep
he's-
Guardiola
No,
he's
because he would never leave.
well, no, because he's managing the best team in the league.
Yeah, but
You know,
Eddie Howe's got a job at the moment as well.
He's managing an elite team. Eddie Howe's got a job at the minute, but he's not managing an elite team at the minute. He's not an elite manager managing an elite team. Pep's an elite manager managing an elite team. So it's completely different circumstances.
Yeah, but looking at the actual structure of the clubs that you've just named, I mean, maybe with exceptions to Chelsea, would if you were a manager who was looking to join a top side and be part of something exciting, would you choose Tottenham or Manchester United over Newcastle right now? With the growth that we've shown over the past 5 years versus the growth or regression that they have?
I think if you're not a Newcastle fan, obviously myself, I would want to stay at Newcastle forever. But if you're not a Newcastle fan, if you're a manager who's from a different area, I think a Man United, a Chelsea, a Tottenham's a bit of a strange one at the minute because I don't think anybody's going to particularly want them. But if you look at the top five, I think what we've got down to at the minute, I think if any of those came in for Eddie Howe and wanted him as manager at this point in his career, I think he would have to accept that.
I mean, I would certainly give you Chelsea. I would think a lot of managers would still want to be part of that. But I mean, Manchester United have had a terrible record with what they've done to managers over the past few appointments that they've done. They've dropped off a cliff compared to where they were, a few years ago. And they're having a bit of a better season this season, but they haven't been looking good, especially not at a board level. And there's a lot of disgruntlement with Ineos. I believe that's the name. Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, they are having an absolute nightmare over the past 2 years. So whereas Newcastle in the past 5 years have went from being a bottom of the table relegation slugger of a team to Champions League qualifiers and having a lot of excitement around Newcastle with potential for investment, having possibly the richest owner. I mean, I say possibly, definitely the richest owners on the planet. Like that to me, even if I wasn't a Newcastle fan, would be a very attractive proposition, as opposed to dealing with whatever's going on at Manchester and Tottenham right now. That's Manchester United. Obviously, Manchester City's a bit of a different story.
I think the other side of the coin with that is as well, though, that if Eddie goes into any of those clubs, they are going to improve. They're going to improve a lot because he'll bring structure, especially like some Man United or a Chelsea. He would come in and he'd bring structure to the team, and he'd bring, he'd get everybody on side, and everything would work. And it would work to a point that he can manage to. And he'd do brilliant, as I say, probably 2-3 seasons. He'd probably do better than he's done here. He'd win potentially a few more cup competitions going in there. But I think at some point he hits his level, and he would never go in there and at this point in his career win the Premier League. I think he needs to go off and try different things before he steps up to that next level. And
So
as Win said the other night, there's every chance that if we get rid of Eddie, we'll turn around in 2-3 years' time and say we want him back as manager because he's developed and he's turned into that person. But I just think at the minute at Newcastle, he hasn't got that development opportunity, and it has become stale.
So if I could ask two questions just based on that, is one, are you basing him hitting his level on what he did at his previous club and the fact that we're having a bad season this season? And two is, could he not hit that level by getting through this with Newcastle, with a squad of players who do seem to be playing for Eddie Howe very seriously at the moment, judging from reports that we've seen, which I do believe the later show is going to get onto a little bit. Do you not feel as if he could progress and become the manager that we would all miss while still being at Newcastle?
He could have progressed a few. I completely agree with you. He could have progressed a few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, 100%, by changing the coaching staff. and giving himself different ears and different voices in his head. In regards to now, I think he's gone too far. He's gone too far, just keeping everything exactly the same. I know he's brought in sort of the set piece coach and things like that, but his core team in the middle have stayed very, very static. So yes, I think he could have developed as a manager and Ferguson did this, Pep's done this. You have different number twos at times to give you different perspectives and to stop things going stale in the squad. Whereas I think with Howard, don't get us wrong, he's loyal. We'll all know that he's loyal to players and he's loyal to his back team staff. But I think as a manager, sometimes you've got to be ruthless and say, look, I want to develop, and to develop, I need different voices in my head.
Mm-hmm. But do you think like a complete overhaul might be like a bit too drastic? Like as you say, he has changed a staff member here, a staff member there. I would say maybe doing that over a progression. And I know that Premier League managers don't get a lot of time to be able to do that, but maybe changing one person at a time is going to be a little bit less destructive than if he was to, clear out more of the backroom staff or the coaching staff and replace them and have the players having to get used to a whole new coaching style. And also you can't get rid of Jason Tyndall because that would ruin a song. So you kind of need to keep the two of them, otherwise you can't sing that rock and all over the world song. But yeah, no, but fair points though.
I think this is one for Gary to jump in on because he's obviously got the coaching experience. I just think you need different voices.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest problem for me is always being Eddie's brought the same crew with him all the time, and I don't. I said sometimes you just need fresh ideas. You just don't always rely on the same body. And like I said, I've when I was player coach, I said I'd be more than happy to step into the manager's seat if it wasn't happening, because I used to go and work. The trouble is when you're a player coach, you don't always necessarily see the game as you do as a coach on the sideline. So if I was subbed, I'd go and stand literally, and this is no word of a lie, I'd go and stand on the bar roof just so I could get a full picture of the game going on. And again, I'm going back into the 90s before we had, literally, we just had a piece of pen and paper and that was it. But listen, games evolve. Games isn't just about, players going up and down the field. I mean, I've noticed in the chat there, we're talking about athleticism. Somebody's put in there that Jahar would be much better than Trippier because of his athleticism. It's not just about running. It's not just about having the breath. Like I said, there's people can run all day. It doesn't give you an out. And the biggest problem for me is trying to find solutions to where Eddie Howe, and you know what? What I really hoped, and this is going to sound bloody awful, to stop all this arguing, to stop all the narrative about who's at fault. If we'd have just stayed a mid-table side until we'd got a side, nobody would be talking like this. None of us. Nobody would be looking at, we should be looking at Champions League. Nobody would be. It should just be a case of, well, we're not fighting relegation, lads. What went well? What went wrong? It's because we're such a yo-yo club at this present moment in time. Everybody just looks for an out. Everybody just looks for the Bobby Robson situation. And again, I'll go back to where we were before. That lad's got a statue outside the ground. If he was that bad, why has he got a statue, Win?
Well, he's got a statue not just because of what he did at Newcastle. It happens to be at Newcastle, but he's got a statue because he's a Geordie and what he achieved in world football as well as at Newcastle.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you look at a name as being a global brand of what he's done, I remember him at the Ipswich time a lot more than I do at Barcelona, believe it or not, because, like I say, I don't follow a lot of European football. And again, the reasons why I don't follow European football is because it's the same teams that win every year in, year out. It just gets a little bit boring for me.
Farmers League.
I'd rather see competition. And the biggest problem for me is the Premier League is getting very much in line with European football. It's just being a gimme for those that can pay the right money. And that's what frustrates me, is the fact that the doors get closed on a team that's trying to succeed. So I don't think. Let me ask you a question then. Why did Unai Emery, who's an elite manager, turn down Newcastle?
Because he had a lot to lose. He
What?
had, a reputation.
He wasn't at a job.
No, but I'm saying he had reputation. I think he was in a job when he turned it down. But anyway, he had reputation to lose. He had won European trophies by that time. He was already becoming a great, if not elite manager. So that's why he turned it down. He didn't want to come into a relegation battle. If you had said any top manager at that point, come in and manage this, it probably went, oh, there's not much chance I'm going to do that. Eddie Howe didn't have anything to lose. Eddie Howe hadn't managed for a year. He'd been offered the Celtic job and turned it down, and that started to make some rumours come out, if you remember, about him. Is he up to coming back into football? And I think when the Newcastle job came up, I mean, if you're Eddie Howe and you've managed what he'd managed before that, it's a massive, massive club to come in for you. No matter, even if we had been relegated that season, there was still the trajectory there for him to take it back up and to move on from there. So he was willing to take the chance because of the way his career was. He wasn't an elite manager. He wasn't a great manager at that point. But Emery was an elite manager at that point, and he had a lot of reputation and things to lose. The last thing he probably wanted to come into was a relegation-threatened team, and take it down. And if I'm perfectly honest with you, I think Emery would have took it down. I don't think he would have managed them players the way Eddie Howe did. So I think Eddie Howe did a brilliant job by coming in and turning that, and he was the right man. He was the right man at that point. So I've never ever called Eddie Howe for what he's done at this club. But in regards to it now, I just think he's took it to a level. But don't disregard what he did before. As I say, I don't think an Emery, I don't think a Pep Guardiola, I don't think potentially a Mourinho or anybody would have come in and done what he did when we were relegation fodder that season.
Can I ask a question to all of you actually? You know how we've just been speaking there about how like elite managers or managers who had a reputation to protect might have been avoiding Newcastle because of the tough job that it was, surviving relegation that year. Do you now maybe think, and I'm not saying that this is my opinion, it's literally just a question that came into my head while you were talking. Do you now think maybe the expectation around Newcastle might fighting a few other managers off from taking over as manager here?
It would certainly frighten me off.
I mean, I think everybody has said, though, every pundit, haven't they? Those that played and those that have managed, everybody says the pressure, it's not just about the club, it's about the city. And I think that takes a lot of weight to carry on your shoulders. And it takes a hell of a coach mentally to get to that level, as in carry the city rather than just the club. Because it has to be done in a way, and I love that banner. It's not we don't. What is it?
We don't demand a team that wins.
A team that wins. Try exactly. That's the one. I absolutely love that because of what it means, and that's like I said when Sir Bobby Robson was talking about the pride of the city when he was doing his spiel. I think it carries a lot of weight. The city itself. So any manager coming into Newcastle, and again, this is why I keep going to these elite managers, and you start questioning. The number one thing for me, and I know it sounds crazy, right, is Newcastle itself. If you look at Newcastle in the Northeast, we're saying players won't come to the Northeast to play for Newcastle. Why do you think elite managers are going to give up the likes of Monaco, Marseille, or anywhere that's nice and warm to come and live in the Northeast? I just think there's a lot of question marks still over this elite bracket, as in who will fit and again, it's not about managing Newcastle United. I think it's managing the area is the biggest problem for me. Are you not just looking down a very narrow lane and saying, Newcastle's a big club? It's a massive club. but only in the northeast.
But I think, Gary, if you're an elite manager out there now and you're looking at Newcastle United, you're thinking, I could go there and do something there. I could go there and, turn them into something special. As was said, we've been asleep and we've really all still been, even, I know when Keegan came in, it was sort of, we're the sleeping giant, and then all of a sudden we got Premier League football and it was sort of the giant's risen. But that's still not really the case. We haven't risen to where we can. Now that we've got the PIF and we've got the money, we've got the potential of a new training ground, a new stadium, new money coming into this club through sponsorship and getting further up the league, I think a hell of a lot of managers, a hell of elite managers would be out there saying, hey, I would love to be Newcastle United's manager. I want to go on this journey with them.
There was a question in the chat before. Who would you have?
Me?
Yeah.
I've already said I would have either... If you want to go with a young manager and give them a chance, I will go with Fabregas. If you want to have somebody established and you want somebody who will win a trophy, we know for a fact in the next 2 years, but it will be a rocky road with him, go with Mourinho.
I can't be the only one who thought Borky had legitimately just answered that question as the person he would choose as the new manager was himself. I genuinely thought that me was his answer. I was like, oh, that's some confidence.
I'll have it. I'll send my CV in tomorrow. That's why I said I think we've got a very narrow pool of names, and again, everybody was looking at De Zerbi, and I think the one thing you need at Newcastle is a bit of security, and I think the trouble is with the likes of De Zerbi, he seems to just be, whenever there's a problem, whenever there's a little bit of tough times ahead, he just quits. I believe he's just quit Marseille again now, hasn't he? Yeah. Isn't that his 8th club that he's walked away from? So, and that's what I'm saying. Names are there, and I understand, elite names potentially. I'm not saying they wouldn't come to the northeast. I'm just saying you're looking at a very narrow window of opportunity to get them to the northeast, and it would have to be a decent money, a decent wedge to get them there, and obviously the potential to open the checkbook a little bit further than it has been already. So, I think, like I said, we can all throw names into a hat, but when you actually narrow it down to being just a name, or is there an absolute potential that this guy would come? I think it's less than we actually believe it is. Everybody talks about what's happening at Cosmo and Comos and things like that. With Fabregas, do you think he would seriously lift his family from where he is now in the sunshine and bring them to the northeast? I don't.
100%.
Nothing wrong with the northeast for 1 week in July.
Are you being serious, Boker?
Yeah, 100%. In regards to this, what you've got to remember is every manager out there, I think, sees managing a Premier League club as being the pinnacle of the career. I think that the aim of every manager out there is to become a manager of a Premier League club. And when you look at it, no matter what anybody says, we're one of the top 7, 8 teams in the Premier League. I don't think there'd be many managers, I mean, apart from elite managers who are like Barcelona, AC Milan, Real Madrid, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, may turn wood down. But I don't think there are many managers out there that would turn wood down who aren't in those jobs. I think you've got to remember, this job at Newcastle United, it's got opportunity. We've got some great players. There's a chance there for any elite manager to just come in and take the ground run. Another manager I was thinking was, what about I forgot his name. It's the USA manager at the minute.
Pochettino.
What about him after the summer?
Well, I reckon he's going to Spurs.
Back to.
I couldn't see him going back to Spurs.
I think that's a.
Levy's not there now.
Oh, fair play.
Has Levy gone now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought he was because they were.
A few months ago. No.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise. That's what I said. I don't.
Well, they had a big party at White Hart Lane, man.
Did they? Oh, I apologise. I didn't realise he'd already gone.
I think Alan Sugar went and picked him up.
I just think any manager who comes to Newcastle hasn't just got to manage the team. He's got to manage the expectation that's there now.
But that was my original question.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I said. I mean,
well done, Win.
it's the city, and that's why I was saying. To me, it's not just the Newcastle United Football Club. It's the city, hence the expectation of every Geordie fan
I was
out
interested.
there.
I was interested. Yeah, what Borky just said there. Actually, anybody would come. Well, we're one of the top 7 or 8 teams. Top 7 or 8 teams
in the Premier League.
That's exactly where we are.
But we're not.
We're one of the top 7 or 8 teams.
We've still got a little bit to go. I mean, like I say, at this present moment in time,
right now we're 10, 3 points behind 7.
3 points. Yeah. Listen, as I said,
that at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's small margins, but I just think the way I look at it now is there a way of closing the gap? And you know, we talk about what goes on behind the scenes, and I still think there's a proportion of myself, and it's only in my opinion, that now there's a little bit of stability in the background. I think you may start to see a steady improvement on the field of play. Now, it's not, again, it's only my opinion, but I always feel if it's insecure at the back, you're going to see a lot of insecurity on the field of play. It's time and time again proven. You look at what Eddie Howe has had to face over the tenure. Everybody blames him for Ashworth going, Mitchell going, CEO obviously getting blood cancer, bless him. I hope he gets over that. You know, there's been lots of turmoil that he has had to deal with. And then still, you know, we talk about he was the one who picked the players. He still had to coach as well. You know, and this is what I said. If you're spread thin enough, eventually it's going to snap. Now, if he goes to the point where, you know, I mean, I'm getting accused now of being a Eddie in boy. I'm not an Eddie in boy. I'm not Eddie out boy. I've said this so many times, but I don't like just people to make an assumption that it's all him without a valid reason, or at least an understanding of what it is going on that he has to face on a day-to-day basis. It's so easy to point the finger at a person and say, it's your fault. But unless you've got facts to prove that it's only his fault, then it's just surely an opinion. It's not factual. It's like a case of, I ain't really happy with such and such, you're rubbish.
But Gary, there are facts there.
Fact.
There
Well,
are. I can give you the fact. I can give you the facts now. The facts are he didn't rotate properly at the start of the season. So we've ended up with injured players. The facts are his in-game management's been terrible throughout the season. So
nobody said he was perfect. I didn't say that at all.
But no, you were asking for facts, so I'm just giving you the facts. They are the facts. That part of the reason why we're in this position that we are now is down to poor in-game management and poor rotation of the squad that he built up over the summer. So the reason they're facts is because we've all seen it with our own eyes.
I think
I said, I don't. Go on, mate.
No, I was just going to kind of back you up yourself, just to say I think what you're referring to is that there's no facts to say that Eddie Howe was involved in moving the CEO on, or Ashworth, or whoever the middle guy was. I can't remember his name. He was here for that little time. Mitchell, that was his name, wasn't it? I think it was more that type of thing. And another thing that there's no facts to back up is that there would definitely be a top-of-the-range elite manager who would 100% take over if we were to get rid of Eddie. I don't think he was saying so much that, you know, the in-game management has been spot on this season or anything like that.
But no, you ask for facts why Eddie Howe isn't at that level, and they are the facts. They're facts that we all know.
Well, the facts are that he's poor in-game management and he's poor squad selection, poor rotation, have resulted in us being in last 16 of the Champions League, semi-final of the Carabao Cup, only knocked out by the biggest team in Europe.
After spending
3 points away from Europe.
What would we be talking about?
After spending £250 million last summer, are we better off in the league than we were last year? No.
Well, we don't know yet.
The league's not finished. No, but the league's not finished. But are we at this point better off? No.
Well,
Are we better off in the Carabao Cup than last season? No.
in 23-24, when we came through that horrible spate of injuries that we had then, we picked up in the second half of the season and kicked on. And there's nothing to say we won't do that again.
Like I said, I just think for me,
and we didn't start the season then, by the way.
Was it 2001, 2002 that Bournemouth were relegated? Is that the right season? With Eddie Howe in charge?
I can't remember.
So, if you want to revert back to years ago,
no, couldn't have been.
Sorry,
2021, 22 when it was COVID.
But isn't that the same?
That was when he came here.
So if you're reverting back to old facts, we can revert back to the fact he was a relegation manager, and I don't want to do that because it's the wrong thing to do, but you can't just keep looking back.
But he was a relegation manager with a side and a squad.
Look at this season. Look at this season. That's what I'm saying. Don't keep arcing back to the past. Look to where we're at now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm looking exactly where we are now.
Are we at a point now of like I said, the overachievers, which is where we are? What would we be talking about if we'd underachieved? I don't understand.
Sorry, Gary. Do you mean after Howe took over that we've overachieved, or this season we've overachieved?
Well, we have, haven't we? We've overachieved massively with what we've had.
Victim of his own success.
I think he's overachieved in previous seasons. I certainly don't think he's overachieving this season. I think this season's been absolutely awful.
The season's not finished yet. You were saying the same thing last December.
I just think
we went on to get Champions League and win the cup.
I just wonder what we would be talking about if we hadn't talked about if we hadn't got Champions League, or if we hadn't got into Europe, or how would we be if we were just a Brighton, a Bournemouth, a Brentford type of situation where you're just constantly finishing in that middle order? How would we see our future then if we hadn't been taken over by Pip? Because to me, that has been the scapegoat. That has been the catalyst for a lot of the arguments, because we've had money where for so many years we've had nothing at all. So all of a sudden we've had this influx of cash, and straight away we should be champions of the world. And I just don't think that is a feasible argument in today's...
2 seconds, guys.
Yeah, go on.
Baraka, thank you for your £10 super chat.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
The happy clappers technique is to credit entirely to Eddie for wins, and if we don't, they shamelessly blame the players. Piff, PSR, injuries or bunts, and absolve Howe of any of it. It is not right.
It's good.
Thank God, somebody finally on backing us up.
Oh, there's lots in the chat, mate. There's lots backing you up. I just think sometimes like I say, we become a little bit narrow focused on where we are and what we should be aiming at. And again, I think it's like I said, I think we've just gone literally through the gates, full gallop, and now we've come to a bit of a crossroads, and it's like the wheels have fallen off, and I'm like, it's his fifth year, and all of a sudden it's all wrong, and I just can't understand from where we. And I know you keep on saying about not looking back, but I can't. I have to pinch myself.
At the starting point.
I do have to pinch myself sometimes and go, I can't believe we're in the Champions League and potentially could go into the last 16.
Gary,
and on that note, have you seen the money? Go on.
I never ever come on this channel and say we should be winning this, we should be winning that. I don't think any of you can ever pin us down to saying we should be winning anything. The only thing I say that we should do is progress season on season. So never regress, always progress. That's the only thing I ever. That's the only thing I've ever said.
That doesn't happen.
If you, to be fair, this season, if we'd been seventh, and in European football, in European points all season, I would have said, I would have still been complaining, but because that's just my personality. But I would have said at the end of the season that's good enough. But what I'm saying is we've really regressed this season. We've went completely backwards. Nobody can say we're playing the
Mm.
good football that we were last season. Nobody can say that, we've progressed this season. We've spent £250 million and we've gone backwards.
I don't think we're playing good football last season.
Well, we
won a
played
cup.
enough to get in. We say we won a cup, and we
Yeah,
also got into the Champions
no.
League.
Here's the thing: we were playing successful football, but this
wasn't-
time last season, now
When
there's very
we
little
had-
difference between this season and last season.
So why haven't we progressed? Perfect. So why haven't we progressed
Okay,
after
so,
spending £250 million?
Because everybody else is spending it as well.
We're 4
But
points
no.
off
How
fifth.
haven't we? How haven't we?
You're
progressed?
saying you should progress every season, right? So any team at all, forget about Eddie Howe. If they finish fifth the first season, then they should finish fourth, then third, then well, everybody can't keep on going up and up and up. For somebody to go up, somebody's got to go down.
Where were we last season? Where did we finish last season? Fifth.
Fifth.
Where are we now? 10th. So we're 5 places worse off than we were last season.
Yeah.
As I say, if you're a couple of points, if you're a couple of places down, that's acceptable. We're not. We're a lot more places down than we were last season.
Well, let's see where we are at the end of the season.
Yeah, but how
But
many
again,
points are we?
that's a game. Sorry, but that's again, we're talking about now European football. So concentration literally on domestic. So you are going to have that.
I'm not going to loop around into it again, but we've spent £250 million to get better players for European football. So that would be my answer to that. But it's just opening up the same argument again. So it's a pointless one.
I mean, I don't know. Like Travoy keeps on asking about something here. I get your point. That's Eddie's 5th year, but football stands still for nobody nowadays. And really, Eddie has had a lot more time than others who have done better than him. I don't know.
Oh, hang on. Who's done better than him?
I was going to say who.
Pep.
I'd like to know.
Slot.
Right.
Last year.
Slot?
Liverpool
Wow.
City.
Wow.
Clot.
I mean, Klopp.
Klopp, sorry.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
So-
like I said, just give me a Liverpool, Man City, and an Arsenal side, and trust me, I think I'd do well.
I didn't just
Okay.
name them. I named the Crystal Palace manager as well.
Well, how's he doing now?
I was going to say
And
he had one good season.
FA
Not
Cup's a
5
hell of a
years.
lot of. But
That was last year. You can't keep
FA
looking
Cup.
back.
FA Cup's a hell of a lot of.
God, here we go.
FA Cup's a lot of a bigger trophy than the Carabao Cup, and he, as you say, he's done it with a lot lesser squad.
Where's Crystal Palace now?
I
Well,
completely
like
agree. I mean,
I think
if I was a Crystal Palace, if I was a Crystal Palace fan now, I'd want him out as well. So I'm not double
think he's
faced.
And
gone
that would
anyway.
be, and that would be
You've
a
asked-
lunacy,
you've asked-
by the way.
You've asked for managers that have done better, and I'll give you a little list.
Well,
But
do you
who's
wanna-
doing better
you
this
want to say the
season?
list of Premier League points?
Who's
won?
done better this season? That's a really easy one. Pep. I can't remember the Sunderland manager's name because I take no notice of them. But he's done a
Sunderland
lot
are in
better.
11th.
Yeah,
They're,
they
they're
are.
below us in the
But-
league and they're not
but-
playing
yeah,
in
but
Europe.
They're a
And they're not in the cup
promoted team.
competitions.
They're a promoted team. They
yeah,
have
they
done
are a
brilliant
promoted
this
team,
season.
and they've done fantastic going into
Yeah.
the African.
So,
And
you
they had a
and
bigger net
doing-
spend than us in the summer.
But net spend, but how much have they spent in the fine win? Go off that one then. How much have they spent in the last 5 years? How much have we spent in the last 5 years? Net spend. Go on. I'll let you even take that one. They've spent next to nout. We've spent a fortune. We've spent, even if we go off your stats, we've spent 400 odd million pound, almost £500 million on players. They've spent nowhere near that.
In 5 years.
They're on the same point. They're on the same. They're on the same points as well.
At the minute.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's what we're talking about. What do you want to talk about? Something that could
no,
not Mystic
exactly.
Meg. I can't sit here and talk about what's going to happen in the future. We can only
I
talk
don't
about
think
what's
anybody
happening
can.
at the minute. No.
And
Nottingham
what
Forest
you were
were
saying
third in the
before,
league this time last year.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we were all saying they were going to drop off, didn't they? And they did
they
in
did.
the end. And look where they've dropped now. Mansell Hansel, and again, this is what you
And
were saying
incidentally,
before,
they got rid of Nuno, who took them up there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right. And like I said, I'm not saying Howe hasn't got faults, and this is one of them.
Neither
You
am
know,
I.
it's like I said, he does struggle with this, tact of being a one-trick pony. And I think again, I think that is the way to, again, of Newcastle United, Newcastle City, the support of making the difference. And with Bunce coming on board, we've stepped away from this intensity is the identity because it was unsustainable. It just, you're never going to get that for 90 minutes throughout a competition, domestic league on its own. It's just virtually impossible before you're going to start really getting critical injuries. And I think that was that season where I think it fell home for him to change. And I must admit, the one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, we've been calling out the midfield in previous games that we've been a little bit lax to. And again, I'm going to bear with me a second because I have highlighted this in a slot. So I'm just going to try. For anybody who's
You've
watching,
highlighted
again,
it in the Liverpool manager.
yeah, Liverpool manager, exactly.
Was he aware of that?
It wasn't. No. This is
To be fair, he knows now that Liverpool manager he didn't know that Isaac didn't work without the key.
I thought you should have bought Murphy. You can't have one without the other.
What I did look at Newcastle against Spurs and again, this somebody's done a lot of work behind the scenes on this one with the dots and everything else. But his point is very good. What Newcastle seem to be doing is what they call the triangular. And again, what you see from this is Anthony Gordon making that initial spin towards the keeper. And what he does very cleverly, instead of running diagonal at the keeper, he arches his run to block the pass off to, I think, is it Drakeson or Dragar, whatever his name is on the other side. You've got Van der Ven here, which obviously Willock is now going to pin that one across. And what Willock does very cleverly is this triangle stops any ball coming through the middle. And eventually what they have to do is go along and play in this system with the two midfielders and your attacker. Your wingers stay wide to cut out your fullbacks from Tottenham Hotspur, which is absolutely spot on. And if you go on to this next one here, what you see then, where we've been outnumbered previously, you've got Bruno sitting in the middle, Harvey Barnes, and then you get your back four. So you've got a 5-6-on-4 situation. You've got a hell of a lot more chance to win that second ball back. And I think it was yourself, Win, that mentioned it during the live comms when you said, I can't believe we're coming out with a lot more second balls.
It was amazing.
And it was, to be fair, it was literally from your comment is when I went and did, like I say, a little bit of a research on it. And like I said, somebody has done these nice little circles. So thank you very much. But it just shows you how just changing it up a little bit and allowing your midfielders to go high on the press, and not everybody. And again, we go back to the Chelsea days where everybody says, I was mad for blaming Chow. He should never have been put under that situation, ever. Not when you win in the game. And I think this is where Eddie sometimes makes a failure. And I think he realised, and again, I'm saying he's realised, he certainly made a tactical adjustment to the press to allow cover in that midfield defensive zone to allow us to win a lot more of those second balls than to lose. And I think, like you say, that was something that you saw during that time.
I'm just looking at that, but I noticed the score was 0-0 then. And if you remember the first half, we were just dominating them. And I was surprised to see that back four there in that particular still.
Yeah.
That didn't have Dan Burn outside the penalty area.
Well, how many times did we say, Dan Burn on his horse going past Harvey Barnes on that left-hand side, and you're just thinking, oh, my God. And Alderberg, I mean, how many times it was clear? Go on, Boko.
Just make a quick point on that. I mean, those photos were great in regards to showing where the players were at. Why earlier in the season haven't we been using Willock and Ramsey for things like that? We know they're different types of midfielders, but, but we've stuck with the tried and tested. Why haven't we been using those lads to do that sort of thing?
Well, that's the thing. And again, that's why I say Eddie isn't without faults, because he is. And that's why I mentioned Mansell Hansel's chat. Because, as much as, I may sing his praises, and like I said, he comes with a baggage. He comes with, unfortunately, a degree of not knowing everything. Or, when I say not knowing everything, too frightened to change, because if it doesn't work, he looks the fool. And that's what I said. When somebody gets the sack, unfortunately, it's always just the coach. It doesn't matter who's made this tactical approach. How many coaches are out there? Usually, it's just the coach that walks. So, yeah, it's a strange one.
And let's see how that works out this season again for Tottenham and Nottingham Forest, who have decided to go down that route rather recently.
Yeah, it's like I said, I do understand the frustration from fans when he doesn't make that change. And we could all see it at Tottenham when the lads were, especially Willock. I was shocked to see he scored on SofaScore, because I certainly didn't think he was one of the worst players on the field of play, never mind in a Newcastle shirt. But again, it just proves, unless you're getting to that point of, hitting a goal, hitting an assist, certain places, platforms will only ever see your XG as a performer. Do you want to do that one, Win?
It's what I cheers. Gary Wynn, Tina Borky, tremendous job. Keep it up.
Thank you for the super chat, was there?
As always. And that's what I said. I think it was lovely to see these little bits and pieces. Now, another really good one was some very clever person, a lot cleverer than myself, has done. Again, I'm going to give them a shout out before I put it on the screen, because it's unfair. This is Foot Offside, who is a company that deals a lot with the parallel lines being drawn on the field of play, and they try and correct any misdemeanors. Now, what was quite obvious from this one was their lines for Willock's offside goal rule. And again, if you look here, what they've done is they've gone to the shoulder of Van der Ven and Willock's head, and you can see he's miles. Well, I say miles. That's a lie, but he's actually onside. And they've run this, and let me just show you, so you can see how they work it out. So they run these lines to run parallel with all the lines on the field, so they can literally pinpoint where every single player is at that point. And again, this is something that I wished the PGMOL would do, rather than this, cartoony image that they give you. I think to clear all of the doubt of the offside rule, and again, I keep saying about the 5 centimetre rule seems to only occur at certain clubs.
The only thing that puzzles me about that is, if you look at this Ray machine, now go back to that one.
Oh, the what's the name one? You mean that one?
Yeah, it's now all of those allegedly parallel lines are convergent to a single point.
Yeah. So
how does that work?
So the way they do it is they work on, if you look at the center line, right? So the first thing you have to do is draw a center line. And then what they do is they'll look at every other line to get a metric gauge from that. So they'll look at a point to draw another line. So they get in exactly the same cuts. It's like having an X-ray machine, if you like, where they slice, or an MRI machine, where they slice through each layer of muscle.
But if you're saying that you can see one of those rays, for want of a better expression, going directly through the center line.
Yeah.
The rest of those lines are not parallel.
No,
because they're convergent to a single point.
I think it's like a prism when you speed through a prism, it's the same sort of principle. Let's be honest. If we're getting down to this, it's a load of I nearly swore, a load of rubbish. See these lines here. Look, if a linesman flags they're offside, if he doesn't flag, they're not. If it's a balls up, they talk about it after the game, and you have that little discussion. But this VAR thing's just, it's ruining football. The time it takes, the absolute something like that. I mean,
Well, we'll have
he-
to have that discussion then.
Yeah, Win, you'll see it
Yeah.
better on here. Look, can
Yeah.
you see these lines, these tram lines that coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what they do is they put that prism, as Boki said, which is probably the correct terminology than I gave. So what they do is they run parallel lines between goal to goal, and then what they do is they mark from both feet those parallel lines running forward. And then if you have a look at these grades, they are literally points every, I think it's 10 yards each point. And then that's how they do the markings. And that's why they can see exactly where every single player is. And they said straight away.
All I'm saying is, if they've got that technology, the Premier League think they've got that technology, and that's what they're using. So
yeah, I'm just saying. I think, like I said, if you want to, I mean, and you know,
I'm with Arsene Wenger. Go with the daylight rule. If there's no daylight, you're onside.
Mentioning Arsene Wenger, can we just quickly mention that Brentford and Arsenal have gone 1-0 up.
Ooh. I don't think that really.
Looking like theirs, lads. It's looking like their championship.
It was always theirs, I think, to lose, wasn't it? I think they, like I said, I don't know whether.
But the good news is that's Brentford no further forward.
No, and I think that is, like I say, where we need to be, isn't it? It's like trying to stop those around us doing anything else. And I think for me, like I said, I hate to come to a point where we did last season. You know, you are reliant on other teams to do a job for you, to get you somewhere. I don't want that. You know, for me, success would have been 70 points this season in that bracket. And I'm glad you moved over to the bright side and Opta win. It's much better regarding your stats because, like I say, everybody else just seems to throw a hat in the ring and pick something out of it. But I mean, you know, if you look at where they're predicting us now, which isn't, I mean, it's not brilliant. If I'm honest with you, they look at us now in that fixture ratings of somewhere in the region of 8th being our predicted. So it's not fabulous. If they are right, we may not be.
Well, I like the look of our running after the next couple of years.
Well, that's what I said. I think if we can get anything from February, we are in a better position going forward. But it's whether we can get anything out from the rest of the games, isn't it? It's looking very hard.
Gary, can I just change the subject?
Yeah.
2 seconds completely. You know, it's going to be cold. I don't know if anybody's seen, but it's going to be absolutely freezing in the northeast tomorrow. Seemingly, it's going to feel like -4, down to -7. Can everybody give that leg a whack? Because we've had very few legs tonight, and we need Win to be able to turn his heating up, you know. He's not getting any younger. We need him to turn it up a couple of degrees on that notch. So if you could whack the legs for it would be very much appreciated. Let's make Win warm this winter.
We're well down.
No, that's a hashtag.
Somebody's making a curry as we speak because it's going to warm them up tomorrow. I haven't seen the forecast for tomorrow. A busy day tomorrow.
I mean, that 37 lakes. Come on, folks.
Whack them lakes.
You've set him off now.
You have set him off. The lads are going to go into, like I say, a lot of the talk later on in the later part of the show. There's obviously lots of talk still around about Sandro Tonali, and like it seems as though he's going to be returned to duty at Villa Park, especially because Captain Bruno currently being checked for this hamstring problem, which again I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it looked more like a dead leg collision rather than a hamstring strain. Now, whether it was just fatigue that he's felt, and obviously the collision has created more of a discomfort in that area, I'm not sure. But, you know, for me, it seems very much the fact that we are like nearly down to the bare bones now when it comes to midfielders, fullbacks, and maybe, you know, as you said before, maybe now he's going to be forced to the place the likes of Shahar, because potentially there may not be room going forward. So only time will tell, I suppose. What's your prediction, Win, for Saturday against Aston Villa at Villa Park?
Where do we start? I haven't made my prediction yet for the prediction.
Neither have I. I'm still thinking about it.
You've put him on the
I've been
spot
watching
there,
them
Gary.
yesterday.
Well, I'm waiting for Bruno and I'm waiting for Miley because I think they could be absolutely key.
And they won't be there.
Neither. Is that confirmed, is it? Because I haven't heard that.
I'm telling you. I've got them locked in my shed. No, I'm joking.
Don't argue with Gary Wayne. When I learned that earlier this evening.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't.
No, you're not. You shouldn't be sorry.
As
It
if
was
I
as
didn't
bad
get
as you
stuck
said
in the
that.
corner yesterday from arguing with you. I mean, goodness.
I know.
Again, I'm only surmising what's
I'm not
what's
writing
been
it up
said
the
in
way
the
everybody
Chronicle.
else is. Put it like that. I think it might be not what we want because I think it's got draw written all over it.
Yeah, I said it. It's probably this is one where you're going to be.
So that's 90 minutes and extra
and
time.
then going through an extra time, yeah. If we can get through, obviously. I mean, it is going to be a problem, and like I said, for me, it's again, the FA Cup is where War Jackie is the trophy for us. 3 Wembley wins, 3 goals, and United's legendary number 9 have always gone deep into the competition. Super Mac made the final in 74, Shearer in 98 and 99. Trouble is, we haven't got a superstar striker anymore. Is that true or is that false? Do you think Vissa and Voltamada can become that superstar name in the number 9 shirt?
Well, when Voldemort scores a hat-trick at the
No,
weekend...
I don't think Wissa can because he's too old. But Voldemort's got every chance, except he wants to win number 27.
What were you saying? Do you think we'll win at the weekend? And do you think
I said
strikers are good enough?
when Voldemort scores a hat-trick at the weekend and we win 3-1, we'll see who we're talking about as being a superstar striker for Newcastle United.
But what I'm saying is he won't be a legendary number 9.
But not because he wears number 27.
Exactly.
But 2 + 7 = 9.
Very good.
I love that my reputation's so bad on this channel now that I did that maths and Win was like, oh, well done, Christina.
It's so quick. I loved it.
She managed to add 2 numbers together.
Lucky it wasn't 3 + 8 because she hasn't got enough fingers for that. But
no, it's 10 and...
Don't ask Dan Burn that.
But lads, I just think this weekend it's a free hit. I don't think many Newcastle fans are going into this thinking we're going to go there and beat Villa. I'm certainly not thinking that. But
I do think if you keep it tight.
I do think if we keep it tight and turn things around, we do have a chance. We've got a hell of a chance.
And,
yeah,
and that's another bit of momentum that we're getting.
Yeah, but like I said, I go with a lot. It is one of those. For me, it's sentimental. The FA Cup, and it's been a very long time since we've gone far in the FA Cup. So I think if we get the opportunity to beat them at Villa Park, does it give us a little bit more momentum going into a very busy schedule? I mean, what
makes it change not to be playing Chelsea away?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just say how unlucky is Eddie Howe with champions with cup draws as well? Any cup draw we seem to get, we very rarely get sort of York City away or something like that. It's always a massive team that we seem to pick up in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
You've got to see it to the lad when he gets through these competitions. It's a hell of an achievement because we never play the little teams.
Brentford have just equalised, by the way.
Oh, have they? Yeah, so was it Man City, Everton, Man U, Chelsea, and obviously Sunderland, isn't it? Next 5 Prem games. How many wins before we say hello to the lads coming in at 9:30? What do you reckon? How many wins or points can we get from them?
Sorry,
City,
Gary, what were the games?
If you're including
Man City, Everton, Man U, Chelsea, and Sunderland.
16 points.
16 out of 15.
Oh, man.
Said about the fingers, didn't I? Said about the fingers.
Get your shoes off and cut your toes.
I'm gonna go for 12 points across them games.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I would settle for 12, definitely.
I
Should we
would
let the-
definitely.
Yeah.
I'd
Should we get the
probably
early
go-
team on? The
Yeah,
late team on?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, we're already here, but I mean, the late team can come on.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
take
The
us off.
late team. Yeah.
The late team. Hey, you was talking the other day and said there's somebody who's sitting on the naughty boy chair. It's Ian. Hey.
Yeah, we'll go.
Promised you bears. I brought you bears.
Hey, good lad.
Evening
They're
all.
It's
Evening
an
all.
best
meant for
picnic.
you.
Good evening.
Everyone, how
You
we
like your
doing?
lovely new background, Win?
Michael.
You like
Oh,
my
it's
lovely new
gorgeous.
background?
Yeah, champion.
Yeah, it's
Oh
gorgeous.
yes, everybody's on the background now.
You're all
I'm
looking proper.
complying.
How
I'm
professional
sure-
we are.
Yep, I'm sure everyone will be gutted to lose the early team, but you'll have to bear
Yeah,
with
you're gonna have
us.
to
We'll
bear
go.
with them.
Thank you to
later,
everybody in
guys.
chat and everybody
See you
listening.
later, guys.
Have a
Have a
lovely
good
show,
show.
guys.
That's
Thanks
it.
everybody
Cheers.
in the chat, and
Yeah.
thanks to who was it that sent us the super chat?
Was I did?
Baracus and
Waza.
Waza.
The
Thank you.
Baracus.
The Baracus.
And
Thank you,
thanks,
guys.
Wazza.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers,
and
lad.
Take it easy,
Go.
boys. Have a lovely one.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Right, everyone, we're going to...
NUFC Early Night News with Gary DeJordy Yum Yum, Andrew Bokey, Christina Cage, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
Right, hello everybody. So
we go.
today what we are going to do is obviously it's the late night show with me, your host Michael Grahamslaw. I'm joined by Win, Tim, Ian and Jefferson. Thanks for joining me today, gentlemen. And it's fair to say it's been a pretty interesting week if you're a Newcastle United fan. From the lows of losing it home to Brentford to the... you could say a high of beating one of the worst teams at home in the league, but it feels a lot better than it did at the weekend. So no matter what your views on Newcastle United are right now, there's an exclusive from Craig Hope that came through at 5 o'clock that only adds fuel to the fire. We'll be talking about the dressing room soul searching, the emotionally charged responses that we saw apparently against Tottenham, fresh injury concerns for Bruno Guimarães, the updating on Lewis Miley, and then finishing off with some developments behind the scenes, just a few clarifications that were put in there from information that we've had prior, but could shape the future of this football club for the next decade. So, to start, I want to go all the way back to the weekend. There's something about losing to Brentford in behind closed doors summits, because after that game, apparently Newcastle United captain Bruno Guimarães brought the team together alongside a maybe unlikely trio of Kieran Trippier, Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy, who seems to have replaced Jamal Lascelles in the leadership team. Not the one I would have thought would have took that role up, but they gave a clear message apparently to the team of we're not good enough right now, we're letting the club down, and instead of waiting on instructions on how to improve, we need to take it upon ourselves to do so, which, not gonna lie, as a quote, sounded a bit weird, but it's how an elite club operates. Now, Win, I want to start with you. Is that a strong indication for you that the leadership group is completely behind Eddie Howe, the actions on against Tottenham at the end of the game, and then having that summit to bring the team together? What do you think?
Well, I've never been in any doubt. You know, there's been all these rumours that he's lost the dressing room and all that. I've never, ever had that belief personally. There's maybe been one or two disgruntled players, but, you know, that's been it as far as I'm concerned. And, good on it, because I remember the last time it happened, we went on a 9-match run.
Yeah, and what we would love to see, to even see half of that in the next few games. But let's be honest, with our fixtures, it does look very, very unlikely. But Tim, what do you think? Is it one of those where it's a strong indication of the leadership group being behind Eddie Howe, or do you think it's potentially Bruno stepping up, asserting himself in sort of filling in the gaps where he might be feeling the manager has missed out? Because the important thing one thing I noticed there was waiting on instructions on how to improve, and it was upon them to do so. It's sort of a weird quote in my liking. So what do you think?
I get where you're coming from on that point, but I think it's more so the former, in that I think it's a good thing that the players come together like that. And I think on the point of Murphy, I think he's an honest pro, isn't he? So I think he's been around the block. He knows what it's about at this club. So with that in mind as well, I think it's probably not that much of a surprise that he's part of that group. And I'm a bit like Win in that I've always thought the players themselves are behind Eddie Howe in general. Yes, maybe in the back of their minds, they might think we could try this, we could try that, something different. But I think, generally speaking, they are running for him. They are trying to make things happen. And I think they all buy into Eddie Howe, the manager and the man. I think he has that respect. It doesn't mean to say that things could maybe have went a bit stale here and there. That's a different conversation. But I think it's really positive, to be honest with you. And yes, you could speak to, like you say, filling in gaps and, why isn't the gaffer doing that, etc. But I think you want it to be a collective effort. And I was, before the Spurs game, thinking, what on earth am I going to be seeing here? Is it going to be a meek performance, or we're going to respond? And we did respond really well. I was really impressed with that. So that speech before the game was obviously part of that response, and we followed it through. So I'm really happy with what's came out there personally.
Yeah, it makes sense. Jefferson, what about you? Obviously, I know you're a little bit less behind Eddie Howe, I think it's safe to say, than the rest of the guys. But does it feel like Bruno stepping up and doing what was missing, or do you think it's the leadership team just getting behind Eddie?
Yeah, I think something that's evident is that Bruno's an ever-present leader. I think when he was first made captain, there were question marks about whether he had the right temperament, if he really got it, or if he was the other way around, like too over-emotional as well. But actually, I think it's been that rocket that he's needed. And he has that positive infection on the team and amongst players. You can see mentally and physically he does give the team a lift. So it works that if he's in sync with the manager, he can carry out, the key messages. So having that tight leadership group, which has been quite consistent since Eddie's been in charge. Obviously, we knew that Jamal Lascelles was in there, Callum Wilson was in there. I think every manager kind of needs that support from senior players. So something that was evident at the end of the game was that I wouldn't say all, but most of the players were behind the manager, applauding, pushing him in front of the fans as such. And I think it's kind of like crisis mode right now. That win stops the rot of negativity. So it's kind of like crisis management at this point in time. So in that instance, at least until we get to the end of the season, I can see the players pulling together.
Yeah, to be honest, I do completely agree. It's good to see the club pulling together. What I will say is, given the result, I mean, I've made it pretty clear from the first minute. What I feel like it was maybe a bit of an overreaction to a win against a really, really poor team. But back to the point of the leadership group being behind. How do you feel about that, Ian? Do you think it is one of those in the dressing room stepping up and showing that they're fully behind Howe and that they're going to be the ones to push us forward?
The cynic in me, when you named the members of the leadership group, Michael, thought Bruno had just picked the 3 worst performers of the last month. To tell them if they ever wanted to play in a black and white shirt again, they better get their bloody fingers out. Trippier, Murphy and Byrne. He couldn't pick 3 worst performers, could he? Anyway,
no, definitely not.
That's probably not true. If they are the senior management team, then obviously that is good. Straight after the Brentford game, they know it's not good. Trippier was good after the Brentford game when he came out and met the press. He said they would take responsibility for it all. So obviously, I do think that nearly all of this squad has got something that they owe Eddie Howe in terms of having developed them, like Murphy, having rediscovered and developed them to an England class like Byrne. Bruno's turned from someone with potential in deepest France into Brazilian international, etc. I think that the whole squad will be behind Eddie Howe because they've all got that little bit extra that they owe him, which I don't see with a lot of other players and the managers that they're playing for. So I never had any doubt really yet that the team weren't huffing and puffing for him. But if they're actually going to get their act together and concentrate a bit more, because Bruno's told them to, then that's all going to be good. I think we saw that. I think we saw that in the way that the ball was retained a lot better against Tottenham. It doesn't matter how bad the opposition is, Michael. We've seen it before against Wolves. It doesn't stop Newcastle from just giving it away, kicking it straight out of play, passing it straight to the opposition. We didn't do that nearly as much against Tottenham. So hopefully that's clear the air that we needed.
Yeah, I just say as well. Right, go on, Ian. Sorry.
It's all right. I'm done.
Sorry, but I'll just say as well on that point that you made, Ian, about do you see this elsewhere with other managers and players? And I think it's a good one because you do look at, say, for example, Spurs, and you look at Ange last season. Although they won the Europa League, I know that, but you look at the league form. I'm sorry, like those players, they just threw those games basically, in my opinion. They'd down tools for the manager, in my opinion. And you look at Thomas Frank as well. They're not in sync. They're not fighting for the manager, and we can have a lot of conversations about what we think is going wrong at Newcastle. But I think that you have got to value it when you've got to value the factor of the players buying into the manager that we have. And like I say, a lot of conversations around what we could do better, etc. But it's not that often that you will get that sort of unity, especially in tough times where it's easy to point fingers, and for the players to come together and say, no, we need to sort this out. And like you say, Ian, maybe they feel like they owe Eddie Howe. I think that's a really positive thing, and I'm grateful that we've got characters like Trippier, and like you say, Ian, he's been really poor. Not all his fault, because I think he's been overplayed, but we've had players underperforming, but at the same time, we've got real characters there who want the best for the club by and large. Like you say, Bruno as well. I'm not a fan all the time of his antics in terms of like the crowd and stuff, but I think at the end of the day, he's coming from the right place, and he gets the club, he's bought into the club, and again, that's something you've got to really value, I think.
If you think right back to the very, very start as well, by the way, this team was born out of total adversity, out of being nowhere near good enough to hold its own in the Premier League. And Howe coached them hard. Yes, he brought Trippier in, he brought Burn in that first transfer window, and galvanised a team that ended up finishing 11th from a really terrible position. I mean, their confidence. They played 3 years with Steve Bruce. I think, was it 8 or 9 games they went without a win? More than that, it was Burnley in December before we won that season, wasn't it? So they're used to sort of battening down the hatches, getting all together, and forcing themselves through sheer strength of character over the line. And I think there definitely was a need for doing that after the Brentford game, probably after the Wolves game, if we're honest. It's taken a month for them to get their
I was going to say,
game
probably after a few games, because you mentioned how we kept the ball better. But what impressed me at Tottenham was that we actually started winning balls in the middle of the park in melee. When the ball goes into a melee, it was us coming out with the ball, not Tottenham. And so many games this season. Sorry?
We were a lot braver.
Yeah, absolutely. They were putting their foot in, putting their leg in where it hurts.
Just to add in there as well, I think I agree with what Michael's saying. I definitely wouldn't get carried away because of the opposition and all the problems they've got and how terrible they are. And I think there's something in there just to link it together in terms of what Tim was talking about. I think the lack of characters comes because they've got so many young players. So it says about their recruitment that they haven't quite got the balance there. There's some players that lack maturity in that side. It's not about the ability, it's about the mental side of the game. But to talk about that bravery, something I've been talking about since pre-season and a little bit tail end of last season, I want to see us play it through the middle more. And if you noticed, the offside goal for Willock was through the middle. I know it was in transition, but we still tried to play it through the lines. And then with Gordon's assist for Ramsey, it comes through that middle channel. There was another chance that Barnes had that was blocked by Van de Ven. So we need to be braver and play through the middle. And that was something I saw. We kept trying again. And I think, that was a positiveness to kind of see that resolve from the team.
Yeah, it was the exact opposite of what we've seen throughout the season, really. We see when Wissa and Voltamada play, it's just cross. And I know that, there were a lot of crosses, particularly in the first half against Spurs, but when you sit as deep as they ended up having to do, you do kind of expect it. I do completely agree. We were so much dangerous when we tried to play through that middle third, and it's probably the best I've seen us passing-wise in that sort of position. Second half, maybe less so. But I think with Anthony Gordon up top, they're realising we can't just play it out wide and put a cross in. So it's almost as if, whether you agree with Gordon through the middle or not, it's almost as if that's something where they've gone, right, tactically, we need to change things up a little bit. And, for what it's worth, I thought it worked. We looked pretty decent. And it's, again, we'll see how we look in the upcoming games, see if that becomes a run, or if it's just Spurs being Spursy. Just to go back to the point about Spurs, not going to dwell on it too much, but Ange did an interview with the Overlap about with Thomas Frank being sacked. If anyone wasn't listening to it, generally it's the second best thing I've heard today after the early night show. But I think it's one of those where he even says he knew he was going to be sacked in January. But they went on to. He said, the moment I get eliminated from the Europa League, my job's probably gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to win that trophy, and I'm going to make sure that I'm the one that brings a trophy back to Spurs. Now, to relay that back to Newcastle, there is fine well a chance that, and Ange didn't say he knew because of what people had said to him. He knew because of what people hadn't said to him. So no one was talking about transfer windows in the future. No one was talking about future plans at all with him. And I think Eddie Howe will, he sat there himself and said, look, if I'm not the right man to take us forward, then I'll step down. But I think he'll know full well where the board sit with them, even if they haven't spoke to him about the future. And I think with that, having the players behind him is something that is, massive to him. But one thing that they also said as well was, the board are more inclined to sack a manager when they notice the empty seats in the stadium. Neville referred it back to Van Gaal. They were having 20,000 empty seats in a stadium. You're not going to get that with Newcastle United. So what normally makes a board push a button, you're not going to get at Newcastle. So that's something that I found really interesting. I think it's something that's going to influence Newcastle and the board going forward, because I still think Howe probably does end up leaving us at the end of the season. But when you sort of hear all these things of, actually it's the money in the pocket that they sort of mainly focus on. If the players are behind them, player power got Xabi Alonso out at Real Madrid. Let's be honest, you're not going to get that here. The only player that looked semi-discontent, I speak English sometimes, looked in a little bit of discontent was Sandro Tonali. You see the clip of him the other night celebrating the Ramsey goal. Seems pretty happy to be here. Whether he's, family's the same, it's mental. But there's so many sort of factors that go into this that realistically, as a fan, we're just sort of kept out of the loop. We know absolutely nothing, but it is really good to see the players behind Eddie Howe. But I do want to focus on Bruno, because when he got the captaincy, there were so many people saying it was the wrong decision. He wasn't fit enough to be a captain. And whether it was right, whether it was wrong, he definitely is the most passionate player I've ever seen in a shirt. But is this the season we've seen Bruno evolve into a proper captain and a proper leader? What do you think, Wyn?
Yeah, well, I think it was always going to take time. Any change like that takes time. And it hasn't taken that long, really.
No.
And as you say, he has evolved now into a proper skipper. So, power to his elbow, I say. And
I think he was. I think
come
he was
on,
there.
the rest of the team.
I think he was there at the Carabao Cup time, which is just about this time last year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm saying it's
I mean,
but he's
I
been
know
doing
it was a bit of a. It looked a bit crass. In fact, Bruno had told him, "I'm going to go if you don't make us captain," and then he got ripped off Trippier when he finished a great season and given to Bruno. But That's probably good management. If Howe knows that Trippier's not going to be fit enough to play every game and needs to be replaced, that he's given it to Bruno when Trippier could be vice captain alongside him for the best part of the next season. I think it's good. But yeah, what a captain he is. So passionate. And let's be honest, when he does a crunching tackle and gets up and it's the halfway line and we're already leading and he's going, yes, to the away fans, it winds them up, doesn't it? It's a little bit of a wind up to the away fan or the home fans if we're playing away. I don't mind that at all.
I don't mind.
So I don't want to turn it myself into kissing Bruno's butt the entire time. So I am going to tone myself down. But does anyone disagree with him turning into a proper captain and evolving from what he was? If not, happy to move
No,
on.
I'm not going to disagree. I'll just quickly say, like, I was a bit unsure myself when he was given the armband. And I've said before that sometimes I've thought just concentrate on the game itself, forget about the crowd. But I think over time I've kind of got used to that and used to his style of captaincy, and that he is all about showing his emotion to the crowd and leading with that emotion. And I understand some people might say, well, you want to call your teammates out as well at times, and maybe you could do that more in terms of saying, like, you could do this, you do that, etc. But I think, like I say, when it's coming from that pure place of passion, I think it's obvious he really wants to win. He really loves the club. He's completely, obviously with his family as well, have bought into Newcastle. When that's the case, I think it really is infectious to the rest of the team when he's driving the team forward. And you look at players like Alan Shearer as captain. He wasn't barking out orders as a captain. He just led by example, didn't he? It obviously had the aura of the player that he was. So it's a bit similar in that way, that he's not going to tell players off, etc. But he's going to lead by example, but also going to show his passion to the fans as well. So, like, yeah, I think you can't really, in my opinion, you can't really doubt that he's definitely developed as seasons went on in that regard as a captain.
Yeah, completely agree.
The
Jeff?
other thing I would say, going back to what Ian said, was when he said, did he really say, make us the captain or I'm leaving?
Well,
I don't recall that.
No, he didn't. No, my first reaction when he was made captain and it was ripped away from Trippier was, well, it's a bit crass. That sounds like he's demanded to be captain because otherwise he's going to be off, and we want him. Clearly, that was wrong, and actually was good management to allow Bruno to take over as captain whilst Trippier was still there during that season to act as his vice captain, to sort of show him the ropes, if you like. And I think Bruno has evolved to be an excellent captain. Yeah. He demonstrates with the way that the way he plays on the pitch, inspires the players around him to give a little bit extra most of the time. I think he's helped by the fact that Trippier is still playing. That Dan Burn is a very, very good captain. If Bruno and Trippier had never been here and we'd had Dan Burn as captain, we'd be in the Championship. But what a good captain he would make as well. So Jamal Lascelles' guiding hand has been there right up until very recently as well. So I think it's a squad. There's a lot of internal captains, vice captains to keep the guys all focused, facing the same direction. Yeah. And Bruno with passion sprinkled on the top is the one that is the actual leader and top scorer. Is he now? Nearly just about.
Yeah, both for goals. Is it for no? Not for goal involvements, isn't it? I think altogether.
No, top in the Premier League. He's top goal scorer and top assister.
Okay, I thought Barnes was for all comps. No,
all comps might be Barnes. Yeah,
but I think for actual goal involvement, if you add the goals and assists, I think it is Bruno. But I was just going to say as well,
that penalty he pinched at Brentford last week put him top in the Premier League goal scored. But by the by, if he's top goal scorer and top assister, that's why he's a captain, isn't it? Even just on his pure individual performance, who else is going to get ahead of him?
I mean, I was going to say that I guess people kind of forget as well that Bruno had to almost be forged through fire in the sense that when we had like the injuries in 23-24, and I think it was like the most recorded in senior men's football or something crazy like that. He literally had Sean Longstaff and Miley next to him, and he had to exemplify great leadership because you've got a player that clearly the quality isn't there. And then he was literally on 9 yellow cards. He couldn't get another booking. So imagine if he's then suspended. It's a massive issue for the
9
team.
games.
And that was an amazing run. And then obviously he's got a young Lewis Miley until obviously he had that terrible injury towards the end of the season. But he marshaled the midfield well as being a match winner. So if you remember the 2 key goals against Forest, you know, the winner in that tight game at Fulham, he turned up that season. Because the thing is, people look at a lot of the physical attributes, but he can make things happen. He can dictate play, and he can also be a match winner on his day and score goals. It's real Roy of the Rovers stuff. So he is captain material. And the other thing is, we talked about it the other day, that in terms of what we used to do in terms of getting the recruitment right historically is, if you look at it, a lot of those players we signed were actually winners. And people forget that Bruno won the South American Cup for Atletico Paranaense when he was I think he was 19 or something. He was quite young. So he is a winner as well. And so he'll demand those standards for the rest of the team.
It takes Bottle as well, just to say when things are going wrong, it takes Bottle to want the ball and be creative, doesn't it? And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Although we mentioned there, Bruno is a serial winner. And obviously, we want him to be long-term captain of Newcastle United. But we're currently in a position where it's a very realistic proposition that we don't qualify for Europe next season. So, Win, I'll start with you. Would you feel aggrieved if Bruno said he wanted to leave the club after the World Cup?
Bruno is the best midfielder I've ever seen in the black and white shirt. So I would be absolutely gutted if he wanted to leave. I also think he loves the club, really loves the club. So I'd be gutted that he doesn't love it as much as I do and wanted to stay. But if he wanted to go, if we don't get Champions League and he wanted to go and play in Champions League, and let's say he has a brilliant World Cup as well, who could blame him for wanting to leave?
Yeah, he's one of the few players for me he gets into most teams in the world, if not all of them. Maybe Real, maybe he doesn't, but or automatically, should I say. But he's absolutely fantastic player. Definitely, for me, the only elite level player we have. But Tim, what do you think?
I'm like Wayne, really, I would be gutted, but I think you couldn't really complain, could you, after the service he's given us? If that opportunity is unplayed for him, and he's, 28, 29, or he will be. So, yeah, I'm the same. And I think as well, like you've said, Ian, before, it's about using that money. So we've got to be open to selling players if it comes to that, but then reinvesting that money where you buy 2 or 3 players to bulk up the squad and also buy gems here and there where you do get the quality in, but you're not paying the premium rates, if you like, that we have been recently, or we did last summer anyway. So I think, like I say, it's about kind of evolving our transfer strategy that way. I'd be gutted, but I think it's something we'll probably need to do anyway this summer, potentially with 1 or 2 players, but hopefully not Bruno. I think Bruno will stay though, to be honest.
I do too.
I'd like to think he's all in then. He's like, you know what? I'm going to just see this out and see where I can take this club. But we'll see.
Yeah, you'd certainly hope so, wouldn't you? Definitely.
He wants to write history. He said that many times. And sure, he wants to write bigger history than Newcastle scoring a one-off win in the Carabao Cup. There's more history to write than that, isn't there, if you really want to go down in the books?
Are we capable of writing that kind of history
Way
in Bruno's career?
He needs more quality around him.
If we swap, let's say we swap a Toon Army for 4 relative unknowns and there's 2 gems in there, that's a great start.
It is, but we'd also have everybody whinging that we've signed 4 relative unknowns for a couple of months. But that's just the way football is.
I didn't follow very much European football at all when Bruno came in. I didn't really know who he was. I thought Arsenal were going to sign him. That's all I'd heard of him. And then we got him. So, but I mean, you knocked my socks off straight away as soon as he got in the team. Same with Botman. Didn't really know anything about Botman. But then he comes into the team and you can tell You can tell from
Bruno's-
Chow.
Well, that was a joke in
Third or
itself.
fourth game.
He had to wait to come into the team, but the silliness
Yeah.
that Eddie does, he had to score a back heel volley to say, "Oi, pick me," and then he finally
Pick me
starts
from the
getting
start.
picked.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
you're right. You're right, Jefferson.
You
But
can
you see with
you
Chow,
can see what a
Chow's
Gemma had in the first 3 minutes when he came on for 10 minutes against Everton.
Everton, aye.
He played the
you can
Champions
see
League
when Chow
semi-final.
played, was Chow came on as a sub, didn't he, against Barcelona? I think was that his debut.
Liverpool.
And then he does a
Liverpool.
very Cruyff turn on the edge of his own box to get past somebody. You just knew, well, we've got a player here, and so it's proved. I mean, I know he's creaking at the seams a little bit, having played 35 games on the bounce, but he's already a bargain. 30-odd million, was it? That's what I mean.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sell it to Gnarly and buy
You can't
four
find
of
them, can't you? Yeah.
They're out there.
Leon
They must be.
needed money as well, so it was really good timing because they'd been in the Champions League semi-final the year before. Him and Paquetá were obviously the standout players in the team, but Leon desperately needed the money as well. So all the ingredients added up. But again, I don't know. Maybe it was Mandy really sold him the vision of the club because something made him pick us over them. And we thank God for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows where we'd be
I put
without
it down
him?
to the magic hat.
Love that.
Andy must have had a magic hat.
I've seen a few people in the chat as well. Just say in Bruno's interviews, he has said that he isn't going anywhere, or if he is, it's back home. I completely agree. I've seen that as well. But let's be honest, circumstances change, and how many times in football? I mean, it's just like the dreaded vote of confidence you see for a manager. 1 minute, 100% support behind the manager. The next minute, he's at the job office looking for his next role. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that with us, if we don't qualify for Europe, Bruno wants to stay and he still wants to be that main man. But we got a super chat in there from RG Fox. We take Bruno as a given. We are better with his signing. Superb player. Yep, absolutely agree. In fact, I'm going to ask, is there any signings we've made, except from maybe Shearer, who have been better for this club than Bruno Guimarães? And I know I'm just throwing that on you.
Depends what you're looking for.
Yeah,
overall
we were talking about the
impact.
best midfielder. Well, we were talking about the best midfielder not long ago, and I kind of said Rob Lee. But and somebody, I mean, Peter said Bruno, you've said Bruno win, and I was like, I'm in two minds. I can completely see why you'd say Bruno. I was thinking Rob Lee, maybe more goals, but then Bruno's added more goals this season. Yeah, got Titus there as well. Obviously, he's in the conversation. So yeah,
I remember that goal got us into the Intertoto Cup. Remember?
Chelsea.
7 players, aye. Yeah. Titus had some good performances, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? But obviously, he had clangers as well.
Clangers, a bit like Joe.
But no, Bruno's up there.
Boom Song made him
But he
look
was
like
labelled
a
Titus
worldie.
Hammer, wasn't he? Boom Song was worse than Titus. Like,
Yeah, Boomsong made Peter Ramage look like a worldie for a few games. Yeah, it's just one of those. I was literally just thinking then, there's a few mentions of Beardsley, Gaza, etc. in the chat. He is in that upper echelon of players Newcastle, like in regards to impact. Because you look at that team, a lot of people say Eddie kept us up. There is a large part of that, but let's be honest, Bruno as well. Callum Wilson turned it on when was needed.
I'm going to put Trippier right in there, mate. Because I
Trippier's one
do
of the
not
best
believe we could have done this at all. I don't know. I don't even know if Bruno would have come if
No,
Trippier
probably not.
hadn't bit the bullet first.
Big statement. I think as well, longevity is what probably puts Bruno in front. But I feel like if Yohan Cabaye had stayed longer, because in terms of because what I like about Bruno, he's an all-action midfielder. We talked about it. He can put in a firm tackle, win the ball. He's got the passion, but he can also create. But in terms of actual pure talent, I mean, Yohan Cabaye was just
Incredible, wasn't he?
incredible. It's just unfortunate for me. He was in a terrible team. Well, not the first part. We know how great that team was, the team that finished 5th, but it went off the rails after then. If he'd been surrounded, because Bruno's been surrounded with a bit of quality, I think if Cabaye had a bit more quality around him, it'll be a very difficult decision to make, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of people do forget how good Kabay was, particularly in that team. You know, you were looking at the backups we had then. Well, if you haven't, just go and have a look.
I think a lot of people look at Kabay with rose-tinted glasses because of what he had around him. So compared to what he had around him, he looked fantastic.
Ooh, James Perch and Ryan Taylor.
I rest my case.
Yeah. So, you know, and you just got to remember some of the magical goals he scored. I mean, I still remember that volley against Liverpool away.
Yeah.
Pure class. You know, the free kicks. But again, once a lot of those players left and then the team started downing tools and the players he was surrounded with, they weren't at their level, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But all round, Bruno.
I mean, don't get us wrong. I love Kabay, but he's not even anywhere near the top 10 for me.
I think the way he left the sour taste, didn't it?
And the price, £4 million.
Yeah, but that was when
you got to factor that in as well.
That was when 4 million was 4 million, though.
It was a bit of a shocker. I think it went under the radar because that team, that Lille, is quite interesting. The links with Botman, because Botman won the league with Lille as well. Kabay was their captain, and they won the league. And Arsenal spent big money on Gervinho, and I think Chelsea spent big money on Hazard, and I think Moussa Sow went across to you remember Angie Makalaka or whatever they're called? I can't say the name. So like everyone forgot that Kabay was their captain and one of their top players, and went under the radar because they had the likes of like a Hazard and stuff like that in that title winning team, and Debuchy as well, who we eventually got the year after. So yeah, 4 million for their captain, title winning captain, bargain.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, I think you're going to add some of that. Sorry, what did you say?
I was just going to say, for midfielders, when we picked Bruno, and people in the chat were bringing in Beardsley and Gascoigne, certainly he's alongside them. But of course, we didn't buy Gascoigne, and we developed Beardsley, but he spent all of the best parts of his football away at Liverpool, really. We got him in the twilight. He was still fantastic, don't get me wrong. So I think in terms of midfield buys, Bruno must be even ahead of Kabay because he hasn't left yet.
Fair. To be honest, I think it's going to be one of those, if he stays for another, let's say 3-4 years, he probably ends up going down because of the longevity in our top 3 of all time, provided we go along the same route, of course, and that's he doesn't get injured for 3 years. Otherwise, it's nothing. But to go onto the injury, another part of the Craig Hope exclusive, Bruno's hamstring, forced off late in the game. Looks likely that he's going to miss Aston Villa and the trip to Karabakh in Europe with the long flight to Baku. It seems very unlikely that Bruno Guimarães will travel to Baku and play in either game. Do we think we still have the quality in midfield for an FA Cup tie against probably a weakened Aston Villa side and a trip to Karabakh to pick up the wins that we've not previously done when Bruno Guimarães hasn't been around? I know we got the win against Arsenal, but historically we've been pretty poor without him. FA Cup and a trip to Karabakh could potentially be the 2 games you look at and go, right, if we're going to lose him, maybe it's a blessing that it's those 2. What do you think, Win?
I don't think we should go to Karabakh, with the intention of doing anything else other than win. But the original question was, do we think the midfield is strong enough without him? My answer to that is no, I don't necessarily.
Why is that?
Because he is just so pivotal to what we do, not just in the midfield, but going forwards. And as someone mentioned before, he knows how to put a tackle in or at least do a dirty trick to break up the opposition attacks. And I don't know that we've got anybody else who does that.
Yeah, it's a solid point. What do you think, Tim? Is there enough quality in there? Oh, Ian, go on.
I don't know. I was going to go anti-clockwise instead of clockwise. That was all. That's
Go on,
all
Ian.
right. I just think it's a bit of a test for Tonali to come in and fill the boots. He knows he's been off the pace. He's been rested now. We won't say dropped. Let's say it was a tactical rest for him not to play at Spurs. I should have got him revitalised and fit to be able to get back up, approaching his best levels. And I think if you've got a rejuvenated Willock and Ramsey alongside him, then that is a strong enough midfield to take on the Villa team. Because let's face it, they've lost 3 of their best midfielders. McGinn's out.
Kamara as well.
What do you call him? Kamara, and somebody else was out. I don't know. Tielemans done.
Yeah, Tielemans
So
didn't play.
they're not going to be. They're not at full strength in midfield either. So I do think that it's a bit of a test on Tonali. If he comes in and does his sort of gives the ball away all of the time, which is what he's kind of drifted into. I know he's still done plenty of running and he's fire fought along the back line so many times, but we need him to be effective further up the pitch if he's going to replace Bruno in it. But I think he's capable of it, more than capable. And it would be a bonus if Lewis Miley's fit enough to be able to play in either of those games as well.
Yeah, we'll go on to Miley in just a moment because there is an update on him as well. But Tim, what were you going to say, Matt?
Just kind of echoing what's been said there already, in that it's down to Tonali to really step up in Bruno's absence. And to be fair, I didn't think he looked that great again when he came on against Spurs. I thought he gave the ball away in sloppy areas and didn't clear the ball when he needed to, etc. When we were under pressure. But we know he's got the quality, Tonali, so it is down to him to really get back to his old form. And for me, I think with the FA Cup game against Villa and obviously the Karabakh game, I just think we need to rotate now. And we've said it a million times, obviously, but to me, like for the Villa game, you really just move the side around. And in the midfield, Tonali comes in, but I'm thinking maybe you could rotate Ramsey and Willock in and out between the 2 games. I mean, it depends on the formation, who plays where, etc. But Ramsey, for me, is very important now, especially if Bruno's out. So we need Ramsey to keep up these performances that he's putting in. Can Ramsey play against Villa and Karabakh? And then obviously you've got Man City after. I'm thinking maybe keep Ramsey fresh for Karabakh. That's the main one. I know there's 2 legs, but I just think like we need to be thinking more about the Champions League game against Karabakh than the FA Cup. If we win against Villa, great. It's a bonus, if you like. But I will be heavily resting players this weekend with the midweek in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you agree with that, Jeffo? So you're nodding a little bit there.
Yeah, just Tim pretty much was going to take the words out of my mouth. We have to have that element of realism this season. We can't be greedy. We don't have the squad to compete on 4 fronts. Not that we've really been competing, inverted commas, but you catch my drift. We have to let the FA Cup go this season. Don't get me wrong, if we manage to snatch a win somehow with a much changed team, great. That's a bonus. But it has to be all in on the Champions League. And what better time to give these boys your Sam Alabis, your Shahas, their debuts, put Ramsdale in goal, give Elanga back-to-back games, make the changes. Because right now we could hit FA Cup next season. In reality, a lot of the big sides are still in it. I believe so. It's nearby impossible to win. We're not going to win it with the squad we got. We're on bare bones. So the last thing we're going to be doing is going, hell to leather in this competition, and then end up on the bad side of even yet more injuries when we've got real tough fixtures to come. But yeah, I agree with Tim. We've got to prioritise Champions League. So yeah, I'm hoping common sense prevails and Eddie just thinks, you know what, make the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim Cam agreeing with us there. Forget Villa, we can't compete on all fronts. What do you think, Ian?
I just don't think you can forget Villa. It's the FA Cup, for goodness sake, and Villa are there for taking. One goal have scored in the last 3 home games. They've lost to Everton. They've lost to Brentford. Well, that's not a surprise. And they were really bad yesterday playing at home against Brighton. They could have easily lost that game.
So Ian, let me ask you something.
The midfield is gutted. I agree with what you said. I'm all for rotation. I wouldn't rotate everybody out, but I would put a competitive team out because I think we can do them. I think we can get them. If we
Just out
play
of
with the sort of
interest,
resolve we did against Tottenham and the speed, I think we can get after them. We surprise everyone
just
and go 3 like we did 2 or 3 years ago when nobody's expecting us to win then.
just out of interest, because I just think, it's that after effect. You get the adrenaline before the game. We want to win every possible game, right? We got that hunger to succeed, which I still think is good at this point, because I think the wind has been taken out of a lot of fan sails at this point. But, imagine that feeling that, okay, we get the win, right? We don't know who we're getting the next round. Let's just say we get Man City again in the next round. We're out. So that would have been a waste, those efforts, because again, the draws can be pretty tough. We'll get one of them down the line, but you think Karabag, imagine we've expended the squad, we go away and we lose 3-1 or something. How frustrating would that be? It just comes to a point we have to just logic has to prevail, unfortunately, at some point.
I agree. I just say as well, like, it will catch up with us one way or the other. So we either bite the bullet now and play the likes of maybe Alex Murphy, Shaha, Asula against Villa, or we try and play full strength-ish for as many games as possible. And if we do that, and if we go through the rounds, the squad will be depleted at some point with injuries, in my opinion, if they don't get a rest. So come a month's time, we're going to be in a position where we are then forced to make changes because the players are injured. So we should take our destiny in our own hands, not wait until it gets to that, and actually make the changes by choice right now. That's where I get where you're coming from, Ian, because I've got fond memories of the FA Cup.
Injuries happen, Tim, and
But
you're
we
saying
can
we'll
try
be
and
decimated with it.
We can prevent
Well,
them
we
as
should
much as
do.
we can.
We should
I know
do.
it's not a
We should
guarantee,
do.
but
We should do by playing some of the kids in there as well. I agree. We're not rotating enough. So with more rotation, I still think we can put, without throwing a game almost, we can put a strong team out to try and win those games. And even if we pick up an injury or two, that's inevitable. We would do that whether we were in the Champions League or not. But we have got Joe Linton coming back. Presumably Miley and Bruno are coming back relatively soon. Livramento can't be that far away. It was going to be March when he was coming back, and we're already into mid-February. We can't be that far off. So I get that we're going to have 1 or 2 injuries, but we're also going to have 1 or 2 really good first teamers coming back into the side.
And we're going to have 2 international breaks. One very long one.
Yeah,
so
that was
not
my next
surprisingly, I disagree.
And I would keep my fingers crossed. I'll keep my fingers crossed for a home draw against Peterborough or something in round 5, rather than away at the Etihad.
I'm
because
saying,
if you play a weakened team and peter out without a whimper against Aston Villa, and then find their home draw is against a first division side, we wonder why we didn't have a go, because they really not as good as their league position is showing at the moment.
Yeah. Whatever team we put out, I'm thinking we can still go there and give them a game. Don't get us wrong. I'm not thinking, to write off Villa have won that set. Do you know what I mean? I just think we should back our lads who were put in there, but just, like you say, make sure that we are protecting others for the 2 games afterwards.
Well, yeah, I would put all my meat on the grill. All my meat on the grill.
It's not a euphemism,
the FA Cup.
No.
I know.
It's one of
I think we've been planning for it. I think we've been planning for these games, and that's why Hall sat Spurs out. That's why Tonali sat Spurs out. He knows about rotation. It just doesn't do enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got 6 games.
Murphy can start.
Yeah, we've only got 6 games until that first international break. So, I mean, realistically, if we were going to rest players, we probably should have done it a while ago. But this is your City away part 2. Yeah, you could have rested players then. You didn't. Well, if you're not going to, maybe you've got a chance here. Again, with there already being 6 games left until the first international break, a little 10-day rest for some players, not for others, obviously. It'll be even worse for some players. Likes of Bruno, who I don't know where Brazil are going, but with the last 2 tours of like Korea and Japan, they've not done him any favours either. But this is probably, for me, again, I agree, the best time to sort of rotate those players. Christina agrees that we should be going for the FA Cup. RG Fox put in the question of, are we going to win the Champions League? I don't think any of us think so, but certainly commercially, I mean, you get more for getting to the next round of the Champions League than I think you do for winning the FA Cup. So looking at it from that business perspective, I think we probably, well, I say probably, we definitely have to focus on that Champions League stage. But Ian, you were going to cut me off with the FA Cup. What were you going to say?
I was just agreeing with Christina rather than trying to attract you that time. That finger was for Christina saying, is she the only one who thinks we should go for the FA Cup? I think we should go for the FA Cup.
Just out of interest, Brazil's friendlies are against France, Croatia, and Morocco. So no more than 3 hours flights there.
Well, are they all in those countries? Because they were playing some weird. They were playing some absolutely
they're all
weird.
in Brazil, so it's just one journey.
That's all right. That's a bit better then. So I was going to say, I remember them playing some absolute nonsense teams in places that would never play them ever again. So that's a plus at least. But we mentioned Bruno there. We've gone on to the FA Cup a little bit there. Obviously, Bruno looks likely to miss those 2 games. The other player who looks likely to miss those games, and this is Harvey Barnes' stubbed toe 2.0, because Lewis Miley is still apparently struggling with that dead leg picked up at Paris Saint-Germain. And yes, he's only 19, but we can't overlook how important he is for this team. But for me, a dead leg doesn't keep you out this long. And after hearing what we're talking about with Murphy as well, when he had an issue and they couldn't figure out what it was, and we have all these recurring injuries, when I'm hearing stuff like, oh, a dead leg could keep someone out for 20, 25 days or whatever it is, that's really concerning to me. What do you think, Jeffo? Is the injury record and what's coming out a little bit concerning?
The good old medical team. I can't remember if they fired the last lot and got new guys in.
They did, but I think they rehired the people they fired.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah, that's the problem.
It's been that bad.
Because I do wonder if, I don't know, like once they retire, then Botman and Jamal Lascelles will take the club to court. I'm not sure because of how bad the medical team have been. But yeah, the funny thing about injuries is there's been a few dodgy injuries we've had over the last year or so. So I don't know if it's from a protection basis that there's actually been something greater and they don't want to kind of release that, but kind of keep people chilling. Yeah, people will ask questions, but if they don't have factual things, then that will calm things down a little bit. Or if it's that maybe, he's overexerted himself and he does need a break. Obviously, he was filling in at right back. It requires a different skill set, more running. And people forget that he sort of came back from a fractured spine. That's why he had to bulk up in the gym and all that stuff. We don't know the long-term effects of that, but I'm hoping they're just protecting the boy and then he'll come back fresh for, these next set of games that we really need him for.
Yeah, absolutely. He's such a crucial player for us, even at 19. Ian, I know you're a massive fan of Louis Miley, but with the injuries that we're seeing and you don't want to say excuses for coming out, but the dead leg, for example, is it a bit concerning what we're hearing injury-wise and what we're seeing?
It is a bit concerning, and in fact, I can't remember where I was. I might have been on here. It might have been just in the real world. When I asked why on earth a dead leg could last for weeks, and was explained that when we get a dead leg, you sort of rub it and run it off, and it's all right again in 10 minutes or something, because it's a dead leg in the muscle of your leg. You get a dead leg further down that thigh muscle, I mean, it can affect the ligaments, because, I mean, the ligaments are what attaches the muscles to the bones. You get a dead leg too far down and there's swelling and it's on the ligament and they can't really tell what's happening to the ligament, and that's why he can't straighten his knee. There can be quite complications. It's just a worse dead leg than we normally would experience. So I think it's probably something like that. They haven't detected any damage to any of the ligaments, so they're not saying it's a knee injury, but it's still just his dead leg. He's just got to wait for the swelling to go down and for him to be able to exercise it to get it back up. It's let's not rush him back and make it worse, is what I would say. We don't need to, do we? Not when Trippier's playing so well.
Right. Just
Ian,
add in that. Sorry, go on, Matt.
So I was just going to say, I had a very quick look online. I asked AI, how long can you get a dead leg for? Apparently, it can be up to 12 weeks. Mild is grade 1 to 3 weeks. Moderate is grade 2, 4 to 6 weeks. Severe is 3 to 12 weeks, often requiring crutches. And there can be complications of up to 12 months if surgery or intensive rehab is needed for muscle hardening. And then it goes into actual details about what happens to your body. So maybe he's got like a grade 3 one, because that says 3 to 12 weeks. So you can actually have it for a long time. Didn't know that.
Yeah, you learn something new every day. Feels like it's always days, isn't it?
It used to feel like less than the day when we were getting them when we were kids. You know, it was just for a couple hours after the game.
It's this generation that's the problem.
It is a blow though, because I think with them being able to play right back, we can't rest well. It's harder to rest Trippier, isn't it? And obviously being 35-year-old, that was the criticism, wasn't it, playing those 3 games in a week. So I think that's part of the problem as well with Miley being out, not just for the midfield, but for that right back spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lewis Hall can fill in there, can't he? Apparently.
Right back.
As he learned to his surprise against Brentford for the last 15 minutes. Well, there's a perfect example or perfect opportunity. I think we play Trippier against Villa. It'll save Trippier from doing the long travel and send Sahar out to play against Karabakh away.
I'm thinking the other way around.
Rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. We've got a chat in there. Brazil will play their friendlies against France and Croatia in the United States as well. So
it's a money-making operation.
Yeah, there's plenty of those around, isn't there? But I just on to that. Obviously, we mentioned Lewis Miley there. Okay, maybe the dead leg is a bit more of a risky one. It can last a little bit longer, but the number of injuries that we've got. Obviously, we mentioned we brought in Bunce to stop this. To reduce the number of injuries we had against this exact campaign a few years ago. Is it still worrying that we've brought in experts to fix this? We've reduced the amount that we press, we've changed our playing style, but the injuries actually haven't got any better? What do you think, Tim?
Well, it'll be interesting to know what Bunce's remit is specifically, wouldn't it? Like what exactly is his role? Does he say to Eddie Howe, this player has X fitness going by the data, so I don't think you should pick him? Or, I don't know, maybe somebody does, but I'd like to know that. I think you're going to get injuries, like you say, Ian. It's part and parcel of football. So you can't just say that we should have no injuries because Bunce came in. And obviously playing in Europe, yeah, it's going to contribute towards that. One thing I would say is that there's definitely times when Eddie Howe has played players when they're clearly carrying a knock. I mean, Asul is one example. I think he came on against Fulham, did really well, but by all accounts had an Achilles issue, and then afterwards it got worse and he was out for 3 months. So that one good moment was great, but it cost us having that striker cover for the next 3 months. And you look at the Bruno injury against PSV, you've mentioned it before. He's injured, he's limping around. And for me, I'm like, just take him off. He's too important to risk. Just please. You got Jacob Ramsey on the bench there. You paid 40 million for it. Just get him on. And Bruno tries to run it off. And I appreciate Bruno's warrior. He wants to, but as the manager, I'd be like, no, you're coming off. But he's allowed to try and run the injury off and goes down again and comes off. So I think the management from that front hasn't been great. Whether there's something else underlying it, I don't know. And like I say, I'd want to know specifics about what Bunce's actual role is.
Well, let me tell you.
Go on, Wayne.
It's overarching performance responsibility. He leads the medical, sports science, nutrition, and psychology teams across the men's first team academy and women's team. Injury prevention and management, a primary focus is reducing injury rates and maximizing player availability. following a period where the club suffered a higher number of injuries. Integrating performance areas. He works hard. He works to blend. I said hard there. I don't know if he does. He works to blend various departments to create a cohesive approach to player health rather than having them operate in isolation, and works closely with manager Eddie Howe to tailor training loads, recovery, and player preparation to individual needs. He described his role as a conductor of the most brilliant orchestra, using data and expertise to support and guide coaching decisions.
Yeah,
From
if that's an
the
orchestra, I
horse's
don't want to
mouth.
see it.
Heck of a job description, isn't it?
Are you not going to get that on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
A lot of
Can we
Do you think-
apply, please? Can we
Do you think,
apply?
Michael? Do you think, Michael, that we have suffered as many injuries as we did 2 years ago? I'm just trying to think back. There's always the odd tweak, isn't there, where players miss a game or two, like the Gordon hamstring, which is taken off as a precaution. He's missed a game, but he's back. Probably Bruno's injury when he missed 3 or 4 games, but he's come back. I know he's got a different injury now, hasn't he? Because that was his knee. This is something different. We've got players who are injury prone. Joe Linton's groin goes at some stage every season, doesn't it? So however much you try to protect him, he's going to be missing some games with that.
But Ian,
The other
sorry to cut
long-term
in. Why-
injuries.
Go on, Ian. Go on.
I was just going to say the other long-term injuries. Dan, there's no performance coach or reviewer or analyst that could stop Dan Burn having a punctured lung when there's a Sunderland fullback careering into his chest. Nobody could have stopped Fab Shah twisting around on his ankle and busting his ligaments, and that is not down to overstress on the game. It's just because the human body's not actually designed to run in the way that we make it run when we play football. Our joints and ankles are not designed for pressing in different directions. They just aren't.
Yeah.
So I would query whether we should be criticising them, because I think extra information has saved us from a lot of those injuries that we had before.
I get that, Ian.
Some
I
we
don't know.
can't-
Has anybody
can't
actually
have avoided.
criticised them?
Well, that was implied in Michael's question.
Yeah, but
was
why?
implying that.
What you were saying there, Ian, about Joe Linton being injury prone. Okay, so why is it when we've had 3 games in a week, on numerous times now this season, he's started every one?
Because he finally found some form, I guess. I don't know. I agree with you, but I think that's what if he's been monitored to see if he's got into the red zone or whatever it is, where they then need some time
This
off.
is what I mean.
Probably
Yeah,
why
I'd like to
Lewis
know the
Hall-
conversations between Bunce and Howe. Is Bunce saying do this, do that?
Yeah.
Is Howe saying? It's hard. We don't know. It's speculation.
The
isn't it?
style
Well, I
definitely
think
changed.
I'm sure there must be some maths behind the fact that Lewis Hall wasn't picked at left back when we played Tottenham. That Toon Army, who's been picked game after game after game, has to sit out against Tottenham. Joe Linton might have been asked. Maybe he was still below the red zone, and he said, "I'm fine. I'm good to go again." But then, it goes.
And bear in
because
mind,
it's a
Willock
weakness
and
there.
Ramsey were unavailable for a big chunk of the earlier season.
But they were on the bench though during at least 2 of those occasions where we had 3 games.
Well, we've already had experience, have we not, of players being on the bench who was, later said,
Yeah.
they couldn't have come on even if we wanted
Yeah.
them to.
Plenty, yeah.
Bruno travelled to Paris as a cheerleader, didn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think our figures are going to be skewed a little bit by the fact that Wissa's missed 3 months and he got injured playing for bloody Congo before he even trained with us.
Yeah.
So I don't think that can be laid at the manager's door.
And that was, by the way,
I've had some unlucky.
playing for Congo after no pre-season.
Yeah.
So why
Maybe
did we
we
let
shouldn't
him
have
go?
let him
Maybe
go.
I'm playing
Yeah,
devil's advocate, but
suppose.
why did we allow him to travel? Why didn't we say, look,
You can't
he needs
stop him.
pre-season?
You can't stop
Did
him.
we try? Did we try and stop?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because
Yeah.
it was international break when he signed, right?
Yeah.
They all went
Mhm.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's measured by days missed, and I could be totally wrong, but I'm sure the 23-24 season was like the highest numbers recorded in senior men's football. I think it was like
Yeah.
1,500 and
I mean,
something
you remember when
cumulative days. And the
you
style
remember
was
we played
definitely changed.
matches. We played matches where the subs bench had 3 goalkeepers on it and a bunch of kids. There was
Yeah.
nobody to come on. We played
It
got
might
that
have
draw
actually
at
been cool.
PSG. We played that draw against PSG in the Champions League, and we didn't make a substitution that game because just literally was nobody who could come on.
Yeah.
Just played with those 11 players. We've never been in that situation now. We've got 4 or 5 players more than that now, even with these injuries, which is why we can do some, we can put a competitive team out at Tottenham and leave 2 or 3 of the players on the bench to get a rest. That's why I think that rotation, if you could bring Murphy and Sahar in to the defence to do a little bit more rotation, we should be able to put a competitive team out to maintain a challenge in the FA Cup, to maintain a challenge in the Champions League, and to still be fit and fresh to give Man City a game when we come back. Why not?
I would certainly
Don't think
be
we've
all
got
for
a-
putting Sahar in because I would have had him starting against Spurs.
Yeah. Missed
England under
opportunities
18
over and over
captain.
and over.
England
Fair
under
play to Trips,
18
though.
captain. It's just such a cop out when we're like, some people are like they're not good enough, but they're good enough for their country and to captain their country.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
different.
I mean,
different
worth
No. Because look, listen, I'll give you another example. Because if I name the Chelseas and all that, I'll be like, their academy's better than ours. But you look at Fulham, they put Josh King in there, in key games. I've seen it with what's his name, Emery. In Europe, in the Europa League, they brought on a youth player and he scored the winner. It's like these other managers are taking risks. Let's not let Eddie get off with it and make excuses. Because, like I said, historically, I remember everybody came for Jose Mourinho. And so much so, Jose was pushed in the corner that in that interview, he had to bring out a list and say every single youth player he'd given a debut to. But it's funny with Eddie, there's nothing. It's just like, yeah, it's all right. Academy isn't good enough when that's clearly rubbish because they wouldn't be on the bench.
I've actually never heard Eddie Howe say that
What do you mean?
the academy's rubbish.
No, but I'm saying that's what the happy clappers are saying. But you don't know.
Well,
I'm not saying that because I'm a happy clapper. I'm saying that because
they get
I
again.
know they're absolute tosh. Now, Leo Shahar is
watched
one that's a little bit of an outlier. Sam Alabi looks good going forward. But in the Premier League, let's remember, Harvey Elliott captained the under-21s to a tournament, one of the best players in that tournament. Aston Villa don't want to play him. You look at most players who end up playing well for under 21s, they don't end up making it at the club. Yes, we should be giving more time to players, but to suggest, we have a right back who, he's a bit old, he can't really run, instead of adjusting to fit him in and giving him a little bit more help, we should be playing someone that's never played a game of football at a professional level when realistically it's a must-win game because you lose to Spurs, you start thinking, well, we could be in a relegation battle. I don't get it. I'm not saying all of them won't be good.
Do you remember Alex Ferguson? I think it was against West Brom. And Gary Neville's legs had gone. Exactly the same as Trippier. He's getting beaten on the outside every time. He's like, nah, you're not coming back. Bye-bye. You just have to take him off. And you have to give a chance to the youth. Because they haven't played, so we can't judge. We can't judge. Just because they might be at an academy level. But you don't know. Sometimes we know that players that haven't been scouted, that are unknowns, can come in at that level and cause a shock. I mean, again, we're not asking for him to start 10 games in a row. We're asking to cover sticky periods at the moment until people get recovered. Because I don't know if Kraft is out for the rest of the season, if he'll come back later. I really don't know. But at the end of the day, you do not captain your national team at that age. That's suggesting you're one of the best at that age group. And I gave an example of Josh King being able to come in at attacking midfield with much more experienced players in front of him at Fulham. Silva doesn't bat an eyelid. So again, I have to pose that question back. We've got to stop making excuses. If he plays and then has a clanger, fine. You've got the evidence. But at the moment, it's all, they can't meet the level. They need a chance.
Wasn't Josh King dropped for poor performances? He hasn't started a game this year, I don't think.
No, my understanding is obviously Silva's very similar to Eddie. He likes playing with a small squad. He likes older players, mature players. Obviously, the players in front of him, your Lukic's, your Bergers, they're very physical, and then you can't drop Iwobi because he's like their creative eight. So
He's great fun.
he's having to compete with those guys. But it's just an example, though, that there's that bravery. There's not that hesitation to do it. At some point you have to do it.
Yeah, I think you've got to pick the game carefully. I mean, I see both sides in that you can't just throw them in a high-pressure game necessarily, unless you're forced to. Like maybe Spurs away, like you say, Michael, was like a high-pressure game, kind of must win or must not lose anyway. And I understand the reservations for that. And maybe if you weren't playing Trips, you'd tailor the formation with wing-backs instead. But as it happened, Trips was brilliant. I think he found energy from somewhere, and that was an outstanding performance in the circumstances. Because I thought, like everyone said, his legs were very much going, but he had loads of energy against Spurs. I know it was Spurs. But I'd still play Shahar here and there to give him that taster. But you're saying, Michael, that you have seen Shahar, because I haven't seen him much at all. You've obviously seen him more than me. What do you make of him when you've seen him play? Do you think he can step up?
He's one of those players that will make it, maybe not in the Premier League, definitely Championship level. He is arguably one of the best talents in that you've set up. There is no doubt in that whatsoever. But the thing is, anyone can look good at that level. We've seen it numerous times before. And the thing is, when you look at what youth scouts are saying, years ago, it was, this Leo Shahar, he's going to be playing in the Premier League in a few years. He's absolutely fantastic. Now, it's quietened a lot down, and maybe that is because of the quality around him. But the point I was making is you can't throw him in against Spurs. Saturday, perfect time to play him.
Yeah.
Give him a chance. But see if he has the chance. He does have the potential to push forward and move up. There's games to do it. My point was more like Premier League, we can't do that. We can't afford to do that. And, there are examples of youth players who, everyone thought wouldn't make it. And they have gone through and they've changed up their way. Like, no one would have thought Jamie Vardy at youth level would have been anywhere near as good as what he is. But in a season where, let's be honest, every single point matters to Newcastle United at the moment. Yeah. We are on the verge of a worst season under Howe by a distance. And for me, that youth, you can't take a risk on that. Next season.
So what are we going to
do? If you're Eddie Howe, and you're saying, and I'm not saying it couldn't happen, Shahar comes in and he turns out to be a world beater. That's one possible scenario. What if he comes in and costs Eddie his job?
He's not going to cost him his job. At the moment, Trippier is more likely to cost him his job. Trippier's making mistakes every single game. Every goal I've seen conceded pretty much has come from his side. Him not blocking crosses or getting in the way or losing the ball or not. He's a liability. So you have to make that change. Having him there,
and he wasn't England under 18 captain. But how many of you have heard of Ryan Ledson?
I have. Everton youth player, but I don't know what I think he went to Preston, maybe.
He went to Preston. Well, 10 out of 10. Kalen Gins.
Why does this matter?
These are the last 12 England under 18 captains.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Kalen Gins, Morgan Feeney, Danny Namaso, Nathan Ogbeta, Noni Madueke. Yes, I've heard of Noni. He made it.
But it doesn't matter, Win. It doesn't matter. Talent to individual.
Lackley Samuel.
And also, it's about styles. We don't know. His style might match a team, it might not. But guess what? We haven't seen him play. So no one can make a judgment. There's a difference between playing at youth level and adult level. Again,
there's a massive difference.
He might be completely fine up, but based on raw attributes alone, I'm going to assume that he has above medium pace because he's young. He's going to be quicker than Trippier. That's already a win for me. Because the amount of times I've been caught out from his lack of speed has been a huge thorn in our side, unfortunately, in terms of conceding goals. Getting in front of your man and being able to block across is all I want to see, which Trippier cannot do at the moment. The thing with Trippier was before, he had something offensively as well. He would create assists or chances through the sliding in the right channel. He can't even pass the ball now. So you've just got an old man who's not contributing very much other than shouting at people. Go here, go there. Make the change. Be brave. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to keep with it because the excuses are a bit of boy, in my opinion.
Jefferson sounds like he would have given Trippier even less than the 3 I gave him. And
the thing is, he's had no, like Tim said, he's had no protection. The manager has to protect him and say, "Nah, this ain't the game for you," or "I've seen you made a few mistakes. You're coming up short here."
I agree entirely with you.
Change the formation. Change the formation.
Crying out since the autumn for Murphy and Sahar to get some time. There have been games. They could have both come on for the last 15 minutes when we're 4 up at Everton.
That's it. That's it. Like,
if you
that's when you test players.
Yeah.
But
if it came on in those games, then by this point, and if they had shown that they are capable of slotting in, nothing outstanding, but they can slot in and be competent, then you fast forward to right now, then maybe you would be more comfortable putting them in against Aston Villa. Do you know what I mean? In the FA Cup. Again, I haven't seen him as much, so I can't comment like you've seen him, Michael. But unfortunately now, it is more difficult to put him in because it is now the spotlight on him if he comes in from the start where he hasn't had a taster before now, and that's difficulty.
There were 3 games in the Champions League we were well ahead and well on top, where they could have had a little bit of a try. Sean Neve could have had a little bit of a try. He's quite prolific in the under-21s, and I mean, let's be honest. If you've got a striker's instinct, you're going to be scoring as many goals as Wisser and Voltemara have in the last 20 games between them. I would have tried him, but I mean, you can't. You're right. You can't throw them in on the critical games at the business end of the season if you've not tried them before. So that opportunity's gone. But I would still have them on to try them to save Trippier when his legs is gone. Somebody who plays in midfield to come on and help Willock out.
Just like Christopher Roll says, thank you for your super chat. Tripp's legs have gone, just like that opportunity, like a lame horse.
But they were there against. I know it's Spurs, right? But they were there against Spurs. I think if we can protect them, I think there's still a player there that can help us from now to the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
But not if he's playing every game.
4-4-1-1 would work well for the team because actually, I mean, people are saying Gordon played well at centre forward. I actually don't think he played that well, right? But what he was doing actually, what was kind of annoying at times, was he was floating in a free roll. So he was going to the left and to the right, putting a cross in. It's like, mate, you're meant to be in the middle, right? If he's playing behind the Voltemada, he can still do that free roll. But guess what? You've got a striker there. If you've got a flat 4, guess what? You've got protection for the fullback right in front of him. You're not expecting the minimal 3 midfielders to chunder back because the right wing forward or the left wing forward, whoever it is going to take ages to get back. Change the formation, man, to give balance to the team.
That was my point. We change, instead of bringing in youngsters who are unproven, we change it up and we do something a little bit different. Put Murphy there as a right wing back. Put Malik Chow there at right back. He did it at Schalke. Like, there are so many options we've got before we sit there and go, right, let's throw the youngin in. And for me, I think a lot of people want the youngin because it's something a little bit different. It's something a little bit more exciting. But at this stage of the season, I don't think you can afford to do it. The day you can do it is Saturday, and if he plays Saturday, it makes sense to me. It's all good because who cares? Oh well, people care about the FA Cup, I know, but when you've got Champions League just around the corner, I don't care about the 4th round of the FA Cup when we've got a knockout round of the Champions League in midweek. So perfect time to play him. I agree then, but I don't think we can be doing it in Premier League games against Spurs, which is probably the only winnable game I'm looking at. Going, yeah, we're definitely going to win that. So that was just my point. I completely agree. We need to change things up at times. Yeah, I've said it myself. We're far too rigid. So making those changes is the best course of action for me. Sorry, one
bit of 2020 hindsight there. Of course, we're going to win it. What was your prediction again?
When I saw the squad, I went 1-1, but I did say beforehand I'd said 2-1 all day.
Oh yeah, by the way, how are you guys doing in the prediction league?
I'm not allowed to join.
It's a bit windy up there near the top, you know. I had to get that one in there. I just can't catch Ben up, for goodness sake.
Jeff was sitting second.
Yep. I'm getting bored. There's no challenges apart from Ben. Obviously.
Put a challenge in yourself. Try and get.
I'm trying to catch him. I'm trying to catch him.
I'll be allowed in next season. We'll see how it goes.
What prize money win for finishing second?
2 seconds, I'll tell you.
Don't tell me a crate.
We got a super chat in there, RG Fox, asking if Jim Ratboy is right with the comments he made this morning about the country. We are going to avoid talking about politics. I know everyone's going to have their view on it. I agree with the last bit of the comment, is all I'm going to say on that. But, yeah.
I don't know who Jim Ratboy is. Sorry, I missed that.
Jim Ratcliffe, Man United.
All right, okay.
So it's £110 for the winner and £45 for the second.
Not bad.
Not bad for a fiver.
Not at all. But just one thing, just to finish up on, because we've got a bit passionate there. But just to sort of bring it back to the article, Newcastle preparing a multi-club model going forward. There was dozens upon dozens of rumours about the Saudis buying an Italian club. That seems to be vastly exaggerated, and it looks like Belgium and France are the avenues being explored at the moment, and the reason for that is actually Brexit. Premier League clubs can't sign overseas players until they are 18, apparently. So Newcastle have been scouting the best 16 and 17-year-olds, but they can't secure them, which, to be honest, sounds a bit like Ange did earlier, saying he wanted Semenyo, Mbuemo, Gay, hindsight, as Wynne mentioned earlier, 2020. But Kevin Filling at AIK is 17-year-old that is highly rated and Newcastle have scouted, but it's likely that he will move elsewhere in Europe before Newcastle get the chance to sign him. And for those thinking that might sound familiar, that is the exact age that Alexander Isak left AIK for Borussia Dortmund. So German clubs can move earlier for those kind of players. We can't. So they believe that the solution is partnering with one of those clubs abroad, develop the talent there, and bring them in later. Is that something that excites the panel? Something that where we can see a little bit more of the youth coming through, maybe shining in those other leagues, and then coming to Newcastle? Let's just hope it's not Shola sending them out on loan, because I haven't seen a single one that's worked yet. But does a partnership abroad? Yeah, Elliot Anderson, but he sort of had the chance. I mean, was Amiobi in charge of loans then?
Yes.
Bristol Rovers he went to, didn't he?
Yeah,
the Jordi Maradona.
I think it's interesting that we've chosen France and Belgium, because France and Belgium, with their colonial ties with Africa, give you a big in to those countries as well.
Yeah. In
terms of recruitment and family who may be domiciled now in France or Belgium. So, yeah. But again, this is words. Let us say some deeds.
Yeah.
You know, we've had words about what we're going to do on loads of fronts.
Yeah. I think that if we had a clearer pathway for youth to make appearances in the first team, that would by default help us attract young players to Newcastle in the first place without having to have an arrangement like this. But I get that obviously a lot of clubs do this anyway. Now, I think it's good that they're trying to put something in place, because we need to get serious about, in a PSR world, maximising our resources, and obviously that includes the youth. Can I say I'm comfortable with the whole multi-club setup as a football fan? No, I'm not. And you look at the whole Chelsea thing with, is it Strasbourg, with Rosinha?
Yeah.
They were unhappy at that, where, clubs like Strasbourg, yes, the smaller clubs, and they know that, if they have a player or a manager who's doing well, they are going to lose them at some point. But without the multi-club thing, they are still operating with a level of dependence and autonomy, and they can work within that. With the whole multi-club thing, it just that model and ownership takes that away. And if you're a fan of that club, how do you feel? How would we feel if we were a feeder club? You know,
it's atrocious, isn't it?
Tim, come
I know you're the
on, man.
I get that, you know what I mean? But look at the whole Palace thing as well with the Europa League. You know, all that messy stuff. Like, it's not great, is it? Like, just for football, I'm looking from the outside. I'm taking my Newcastle glasses off, and I'm just looking at football in general. It's the way it's going. I know it's the way it's going, but
did I hear right that there was 23 deals between Chelsea and Strasbourg in that last transfer window?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes.
I don't think it would have been in the last window, but maybe altogether.
I think it was. Youth team, kids going over to play in Strasbourg. Kids Chelsea have got on their books going across there to get team because they've got about I don't know how many hundreds of players they've got if you go all the way through the age groups. They can't get to play. Probably got a 40-man squad in the under 14s. So there's a load of players gone over to Strasbourg.
It was 12 this summer.
I agree with you, Tim.
It's gonna be that. This is modern football. But Valentine's Day is coming up, so I hope the ladies were watching Tim because he's clearly got a real sweetheart, man. You know what I'm saying? Listen, we got to be relentless, guys. Football today is a business, and I think there's savviness to it because I think we need a conveyor belt. I think we need to own like a South American club, get them over, let them be in Europe, get the passport, and then, come over to us because, we saw Man City do that with Savinho. He was at Troyes, and then he went from Troyes to Girona, another club they owned, and then eventually they got the player. Buying them off each other so the money stays internally because we're forever going to be behind if we're too nice. We need to be competitive, and unfortunately part of that is getting a little bit gritty, a little bit dirty, because we're willing to do it on the pitch, right? We're willing to do it on the pitch. We were talking about it earlier with Bruno being a bit rough, Joe Linton being rough. We kind of got to do it off the pitch as well. So we don't have a women's team to sell for 100 million. But if there's a way we can get a few players from Africa, from South America, and let them play for a Belgian team or a French team, and then it means we get them in 2-3 years' time, and they're going to be top talents. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is one of those where if you look at one of the reasons Como have been so successful is because they can spend quite freely in comparison to other clubs in Italy. They've got great, great owners, very successful, very rich owners. Newcastle investing, let's say, in a club where the spending limits are significantly less. Don't get me wrong, you're always going to have the fair transfers between clubs where it's a fair fee or whatever, but that sort of guarantees you do get those players. They get built up in the right way. And, we see it with City and Girona all the time as well. So I'm all for it. I do completely agree, though. If you're a Strasbourg fan at the moment, don't be wrong, it must be pretty nice. You're doing well, but every good player you have is going to be shipped off to Chelsea reserves in the near future, unfortunately. But I'm a little aware of time. But does anyone have anything they want to quickly add before we shut off for the Thursday evening show?
Just to confirm that Chelsea and Strasbourg, since the not Blue Sky, who took them over?
Blue Co, innit?
Blue Co. 23 deals. 23 loan deals.
In total?
Is that your dodgy stat win?
In total.
Yeah.
Can we trust your stats win in that one? Or?
Let's start with Winco.
Right. Angelo Gabriel, Andre Santos, Diego Moreira, Malo Gusto, Dylan Williams. Should I go on? Delvid Washington.
Oh, wow.
Mamadou Saw, Ishe Samuel Smith, Mike Pendas, Mathis Amugu, Kendry Paez, Habib Diarra, Aaron Anselmo, Alex Matos, Cesare Casadel, Alfie Gilchrist, Delvin Washington, Andre Santos, again coming back,
Yeah.
Diego Morero, second loan deal, Leslie Okachewu, Mark Gui, Ronnie Stutter, and Emmanuel Omega, permanent transfer.
Absolutely mental. But that'll be us one day, so I can't discredit it too much. Anyways, that is all for our show. Thank you very much for the Baragas, Wazza, RG Fox twice, and Christopher Rowell for the super chat. We
Thank
hope
you
you've
very
had
much, guys.
we hope you had a lovely evening listening to us. Thank you very much for joining with the show, and we'll see you next time.
Away the lads.
Lasses and bands.